It said your life flashes before your eyes in your final moments, and we see our protagonist's father on his deathbed. The man asks Shuichi to look after his mother and sister, then recalls his mom giving him a snack. She mentions getting a new job, telling him to just focus on his studies before we see his little sister with a lollipop. Advising her to always listen to their mother, the scene cuts to his school, where a bully stumps on his snack. The bully then questions why the young man dared to show up at school while his friends restrain a girl. Next, the aggressor screams at our protagonist, telling him he's far too weak to play the hero. The girl he tried to shield tells him he shouldn't have injured the bullies and to just watch out for himself. In that moment of distraction, a speeding truck barrels toward him, its horn blaring loudly. The young man is completely frozen, unable to process what's happening as the vehicle draws nearer. A moment later, his umbrella is swept away, and he wonders if this is truly how he's meant to go. Lying on the ground in a pool of red, the boy realizes his end has truly arrived. Before departing, he thinks of his mother and his sister Azusa, just as a strange light begins to envelop him. He laments his inability to protect them as the blue light links him to a couple on the street. With tears welling in his eyes, the boy is consumed by regret for having been so powerless in his life. He then swears that in another life, he will protect those he loves with his own two hands. His consciousness journeys to another world where he is reborn on the magical continent of Arcanus. There we find a crowd gathered for an event as a man announces the start of the annual divine blessing. He explains that children under the age of 6 must offer their most precious items to the gods. In return, a divine messenger will be sent to sense the child's hidden magical element and grant them an opportunity. A small boy then asks his mother if he can offer his candy, but she insists it must be something of value. To illustrate the point, we see a box holding 2 incredibly expensive and radiant blue jewels. A noblewoman named Lady Blank boasts that the more valuable the offering, the higher the chance of being blessed. Meanwhile, 2 men discuss the Ryan family, who apparently spent their entire fortune just for this blessing. At that moment, a noble family starts walking toward the altar with firm, confident strides. It's the Ryan family, and onlookers murmur that it would be tragic if they weren't blessed after everything. The head of the family, Holt Ryan, thinks to himself that he has placed a massive wager on his bloodline's future. He believes his children, Leica and Louise Ryan, are the brightest and will surely receive a high-level blessing. The priest leading the ceremony calls for the next on the list to present themselves before the crowd. Little Julia Ryan is called, and she walks timidly towards the altar to make her offering. With that, the little girl offers a small golden crown as her most precious possession to the deities. Immediately, a large blue magic circle flares to life on the floor, glowing with stunning intensity. Beams of energy start erupting from the circle, and everyone is astonished by the power being unleashed. Someone in the crowd wonders if this could be the legendary blessing of Kahai, the mighty god of thunder. To everyone's shock, the blessing is level 7, a feat unseen for at least 12 years. Her family erupts in celebration, feeling that with such incredible talent, they have truly been chosen by the gods. The magical energy then begins to slowly fade as the little girl remains in the center of the circle. After all the light vanishes, little Julia is left bewildered, not quite understanding what just transpired. People comment that her offering was the Crown of Thunder, but that item wouldn't cost an entire fortune. A man points out that there is still one child remaining, and the true legendary treasure will be offered by him. The father then turns to his son, Lucas, telling him it's his turn, and the boy nods with a confident smile. A servant hands a box to Lucas, asking him to accept the offering held within. Upon opening the box, everyone recoils from the demonic energy radiating from the sword inside. As the boy holds the sword, the spirit of Volcano, the progenitor of magic and god of fire, materializes behind him. His little sister encourages him, telling him to give it his all and secure a powerful blessing. The priest watches the boy approach the altar, musing on his bravery for offering something so valuable. From this, he understands that the head of the Ryan family is truly betting everything on this boy. The boy places the sword upon the altar, and a fiery magic circle manifests with devastating force. Outside, the sky abruptly changes color, the clouds shifting to a menacing reddish tone. The boy's father is dumbfounded, wondering if this could possibly be the legendary level 9 blessing. Inside the hall, the torches illuminating the room begin to burn with an unnatural intensity. An instant later, a colossal wave of fire erupts from the altar, surging toward the terrified crowd. Amid all the heat, young Lucas appears drowsy, as if completely unaware of his surroundings. The demonic sword starts to float in the air, and the boy stares at it, utterly mesmerized. He then notices a small flame flickering in his hand and is confused, not understanding what it is. Suddenly, the flame erupts, engulfing his entire arm and sending the young man into a panic. The reflection of the inferno in his eyes reveals the intensity of the power about to be unleashed. In a flash, the boy's entire body is consumed by the flames, and he begins to scream in agony. He is completely swallowed by fire as the cursed sword floats serenely above him. From within the flames, strange orbs of fire begin to form and drip onto the floor. Following this bizarre event, the sky outside returns to normal, as if nothing had happened. The boy's father asks if the blessing is over and where the divine spirit is gone, his family looking on with concern. His little sister then points toward the altar, urging everyone to look in that direction. Suddenly, a body plummets from the sky, wreathed in blue flames and gray smoke. At that moment, the little girl's lollipop hits the ground and shatters into pieces. Lying on the floor, the boy appears confused and frightened, with no understanding of what happened to him. Seeing her brother in such a state, little Julia begins to sob desperately. Everyone rushes towards him, shouting his name and his family's name in utter despair. His parents kneel at his side, pleading for him to wake up, while wondering how this could have occurred. The priest then declares with a sullen expression that the god of fire has utterly rejected the boy. He explains that Lucas Ryan has been abandoned by the progenitor of magic and will receive no blessing. At this moment, we witness the soul of our protagonist from another world entering young Lucas's body. Meanwhile, in the realm of the fire god, Volcano is seething over what just transpired. He rages that the Ryan family dared to offer the very power that nearly ended his existence. The fire god reveals that the blade still carries the scar from when it struck him, a transgression he will never forgive. A small fire spirit then appears, puffing out smoke as if to mock the situation. His servants praise him, remarking on his mercy for only having burned the child's soul. One of the spirits notices the soul from another world and asks if he should incinerate that one as well. Volcano dismisses the idea, stating he won't waste his time on an insect from an outer world. He then turns his attention to the offering, deciding to examine it more closely. Our protagonist's soul remains trapped in a blue sphere as Volcano observes it from a distance. Within that sphere, our protagonist's soul gazes at an intensely brilliant light shining before him. The scene then shifts to the heavenly spring realm of a martial god, where a powerful figure levitates. This is the martial god, his eyes glowing with a golden energy that signifies his immense power. With a grim expression, the man appears to be steeling himself for a great conflict. His feet radiate with the same energy as he begins to stride across an invisible surface in the air. With that, he surges forward and shatters a dimensional barrier, which splinters like glass. The martial god seems resolved to overcome any obstacle that stands in his way. Using only the force of his steps, he continues to break the barriers separating dimensions. Each stride he takes tears apart the space before him, forging a path into the unknown. Finally, he breaks through the last barrier, arriving in a place filled with stars. There, he confronts a colossal creature with multiple red eyes that governs this strange world. The martial god crosses his arms, questioning if the monster truly intends to block his path. The creature glares back with its terrifying eyes and opens a maw filled with razor-sharp teeth. Without warning, the entity lunges, launching a shadowy attack against the martial god. A blast of dark energy shoots towards him, but the man seems completely unfazed. The monster then opens its gigantic mouth, attempting to devour the martial god in a single bite. But the warrior is far too strong, holding the creature's jaws apart and preventing it from swallowing him. With a furious gaze, the god prepares a counter-attack to eliminate the threat once and for all. He channels all his energy into a single punch, striking the creature with his full might. The blow is so immense that a brilliant explosion of golden light completely obliterates the monster. After vanquishing the creature, the martial god allows himself a satisfied smile at the battle's outcome. At that moment, a massive wormhole tears open in space, forming a portal of blue light. The man stands before the portal, observing the vast power that emanates from within. A confident smirk plays on his face as he seems to prepare to step through the portal. He then remarks that this source of power is nothing particularly special after all. Suddenly, a small golden light appears in the void and rapidly speeds toward him. It's a muscular fairy flying towards him while crying and shouting for her master. The martial god catches her in his palm, asking why his attendant spirit is interrupting him. He then senses a strange disturbance and realizes his old partner Rec D has just been destroyed. The warrior wonders what in the world could be happening on the continent of Arcanus for this to occur. He recalls that 1,000 years ago, martial arts were superior to magic, yet now Volcano is worshipped. The fairy retorts that if he weren't so obsessed with martial arts, that pathetic god would never have risen to power. The man replies that regardless, spreading the way of martial arts is a heavy burden to bear. A small flame appears, and he admits he has no interest in developing it, but he has a duty. He feels compelled to pass on his knowledge so that the martial arts will not vanish. For that reason, he states that a small being like himself must remain ever devoted to training. He then turns and begins walking toward an intensely bright, white light. His consciousness condenses into a tiny point of light, journeying through the void of deep space. Suddenly, our protagonist, who is unconscious, hears a voice and wonders if he somehow survived. He then opens his eyes to find himself in a completely new situation, unable to grasp what is happening. In his mind's eye, our protagonist sees himself surrounded by the martial god's numerous muscular faces. Wearing a headband, the young man is completely bewildered, failing to understand any of it. The entity introduces himself as Mars, the martial god, and declares he will grant him a divine blessing. Abruptly, Lucas awakens in a bed, questioning if the whole experience was just a bizarre dream. Just then, the muscular fairies materialize, flying about and excitedly chanting the martial god's name. The boy is stunned when the entity announces he will bestow upon him the blessing of the martial god. Immediately after, a beam of golden light strikes him, leaving the young man completely paralyzed. He receives the level 9 martial god's blessing, and the limits on his martial arts training are removed. Sitting up in bed, he wonders what that was all about, and what martial god level 9 even mean. Moreover, he is shocked by the memory of how incredibly muscular the god's spirits were. The young man is baffled, wondering what is going on, since he should have perished. He recalls the truck accident and cannot comprehend why he is still alive after everything that happened. With wide eyes, he begins to connect the dots and understand his new reality. Suddenly, a torrent of memories from the original Lucas Ryan floods his mind all at once. The young man breaks into a nervous laugh, wondering if the gods are merely playing a cruel joke on him. He realizes he has been reborn into a world of magic as a boy forsaken by the gods. He thinks about his mother and sister, realizing they will now live on his insurance payout. Looking down at his hands, he still doesn't grasp the meaning of the martial god's blessing or martial arts. In this moment of confusion, a pink and white lollipop mysteriously rolls into his room. The boy turns toward the door, curious about who might have left the candy there for him. At the doorway, a little blonde girl calls to him, her eyes filled with tears and her expression deeply sorrowful. We get a close-up of her face as tears stream down her cheeks while she sobs uncontrollably. She then dashes forward and leaps onto the protagonist, who embraces her. She cries out that he's finally awake. The little girl explains that she overheard people saying he would never wake up, which made her incredibly worried. With a comforting smile, the young man reassures her that everything is fine, thinking to himself this must be his new sister, Julia. He then remembers his former sister, Azusa, and imagines the depth of her sadness at his passing. Because of this, he vows to protect the precious people in this new life, counting on the martial god to help him. Outside, the sun shines brightly on a pot of yellow flowers, symbolizing a new dawn of hope. The scene then cuts to an altar where a grand and imposing statue of an angel stands prominently. The statue appears calm and serene, but suddenly a strange aura begins to permeate the area. A dark liquid starts to trickle from the statue's eyes, resembling tears of blood. Soon after, the entire statue is coated in this substance and a malevolent figure materializes. A mysterious woman declares that the presence of that detestable man has finally vanished from the world. She then muses on whether he has passed on or simply abandoned this world for good. With a snake emblem on her chest, the woman laments that she now has very little power remaining. Her dark hair drifts in the air as she appears to be slowly recovering from her wounds. With a sinister smile, she proclaims that without him in her way, this world will soon be entirely hers. The story then advances 9 years, showing us the opulent mansion of the noble Ryan family. Outside, a young man whistles while dabbing sweat from his face with a white handkerchief. This is Lucas Ryan, now a young adult, who notes that the weather has finally cleared and Julia must have finished her practice. The protagonist decides to find his sister, but a thorny vine shoots out in his direction. He immediately senses the danger and braces for the surprise attack coming from his side. At that moment, the thorny whip ensnares him, immobilizing him in the middle of the garden. The young man grumbles in annoyance, thinking that only one person would pull such a childish prank. A moment later, his half-brother Jeremy appears holding a staff, revealing himself as the attacker. Jeremy greets him with sarcasm, as a nearby maid giggles at our hero's predicament. The blonde then warns him that this backyard is exclusively for the mages of the Ryan family. The thorns then constrict further around the young man's body, causing him significant pain. With a cruel smirk, Jeremy threatens to break a few of his ribs to teach him a lesson. But to the aggressor's astonishment, our protagonist simply lets out a bored yawn, leaving him confused. The young man then points out that his sister is finishing her magic training and will be back any moment. With a serious glare, he warns him to release him if he doesn't want to be fried by her lightning. Jeremy becomes flustered, calling him a coward for hiding behind his sister and claiming he isn't afraid of lightning. In that very instant, a bolt of purple lightning descends from the sky, striking him with a powerful electric shock. The boy is left completely charred as the maid screams in terror for her master. The protagonist then glances back to see his sister Julia approaching, her magic staff in hand. Her pink staff, adorned with cat ears, still crackles with purple sparks, showcasing its immense power. Julia, now older, warns him that if he bullies her brother again, she will not go easy on him. With an angry expression, she pouts, making it clear she is not playing around. She then turns to the protagonist, assuring him she will remove those vines immediately. With Julia's magic, the thorny vines crumble to the ground and slowly disintegrate into dust. At that, the protagonist affectionately pats his sister's head, and she gives him an adorable smile. The young man then turns to his half-brother, asking if he has finally learned his lesson about messing with him. His face flushed with rage, Jeremy just mutters incoherently, unable to form a response. Immediately after, he and the maid flee with their tails between their legs, terrified of the girl. Our hero remarks that she went quite easy on him with that last shock, as he appears to be perfectly fine. The young woman then asks why he didn't fight back, reminding him that his strength is a secret between them. The protagonist smiles, adding that besides, she is always there to protect him from any harm. With a confident grin, he shows he is merely teasing his beloved little sister. 9 years have now passed since his reincarnation into the body of young Lucas Ryan. He recalls that on the day he awoke, his father came to visit him, leaning on a wooden cane. At that time, the young man was certain he would be disowned for failing to meet their expectations. But to his astonishment, his father embraced him, saying he was just happy that he had woken up safely. The protagonist explains that Holt Ryan is the leader of a renowned order of knights within the kingdom. Because of this, he is rarely home to see his children, but he remains a loving father to them. When Holt learned he was training in martial arts, he sent him a letter containing some information. It mentioned that the family archives held several old tomes on martial arts for him to study. With that, young Lucas ventured into the archives with a candle to seek out the books his father had mentioned. Thanks to that letter, the young man was able to set a bold and ambitious plan for his future in motion. Back in the present, someone outside the mansion is shouting, calling for young Master Lucas. Two maids complain that Lucas, despite his youth, runs off every day to some unknown location. One of them reassures the other not to worry, as he'll be expelled for his lack of magic, just before they feel a tremor. They wonder if someone is practicing earth magic, oblivious to its true source. The scene cuts to the protagonist, who is training by punching a solid stone wall with immense force. We then see young Lucas inside a cave he personally excavated to train in secret. He reveals that the hideout is located directly beneath his room, and that he built it with his own hands. The young man explains that he spent 6 months digging out the space, dividing it into 4 distinct areas. A study area, a storage space, a training ground, and a makeshift bathroom with an inexpensive tub. Ever since completing the training area, he has practiced in secret every day to grow stronger. After another day of grueling training, the young man prepares to soak in his medicinal bath. The purple water splashes about with spectral forms rising from it, indicating its powerful properties. He relaxes in the tub, noting that the medicinal bath is the most effective method for martial arts training. The young man recounts that 3 years have passed since he began training with the chaotic tempering technique. As a result, he is now so durable that magical attacks of level 5 or below cannot even scratch him. The protagonist states that his defense is finally solidifying, and it is now time to concentrate on his offense. He then retrieves his katana, preparing to test his skills against a training dummy. With a firm grip on his blade, he focuses his intent to deliver a powerful and precise strike. In the blink of an eye, he lunges forward, attacking the dummy with lethal and astonishing speed. His eyes reflect the determination and power he has cultivated over these years of training. In addition to the sword, he is also a master of other weapons, such as the spear shown in the image. With his spear, the protagonist surges forward, delivering a mighty blow against the training dummy. The dummy is then assailed by a barrage of swift, precise attacks that completely overwhelm it. As a result, the training target is utterly destroyed, collapsing into pieces on the cavern floor. He reaches level 4 in his technique and decides to spend some time training his fists. The young man reflects that while his skills have greatly improved, something continues to bother him. He knows that martial artists eventually reach a plateau, and the only way to surpass it is through enlightenment. But this so-called enlightenment is so elusive that most practitioners give up along the way. Lucas then positions himself before a stone pillar, declaring that his path will be very different. The young man takes a deep breath, concentrating all his energy to unleash a powerful strike on the pillar. With a determined gaze, he prepares to demonstrate the fruits of his arduous training. He then smashes his fist with all his might into the massive stone pillar before him. The impact is so immense that the pillar shatters into 1,000 fragments, creating a large cloud of dust. Amidst the debris, the young man observes the outcome of his power with a confident expression. His fist technique reaches level 5, demonstrating his ever-growing strength and skill. The protagonist then realizes that his levels only increase, and for him, there is no upper limit. This is due to the divine blessing he received, which allows his abilities to evolve without end. Suddenly, a clock on the wall begins to chime, signaling that it is nearly midnight. He remembers that his father, Holt, returns home tonight, and they are scheduled for a family dinner. The scene then cuts to a window of the mansion, revealing that night has already fallen. Now fully dressed, the young man walks down the corridor toward the mansion's dining hall. Upon opening the door to the hall, the protagonist finds his family assembled for the special dinner. His father, Holt, notes that it's been half a year since they last saw each other and invites him to take a seat. With a smile, the young man agrees and makes his way to his place at the grand dining table. The patriarch announces that Allen Academy is establishing a martial arts department and that he has already been enrolled. The man encourages him, acknowledging the difficulty but expressing faith in his son's potential to pass the exam. The protagonist offers his thanks while his sister, Julia, eats calmly at his side. The young man thinks that he must grow stronger to protect what's important, but without attracting undue attention. Gazing at his hand, he contemplates how he will balance his power without causing problems. His sister then raises her hand, declaring that she also wants to attend Allen's Magic Academy with him. Her father says she is too young, but the girl counters that the elite class has no age restriction. The young woman then reveals she has already received an offer from the academy for the elite class and presents the letter. Intrigued, the man takes the letter to confirm if his daughter's claim is true. He praises the girl, remarking that her reputation as a prodigy has reached the renowned Allen Academy. Our protagonist's sister is beaming with joy, while Jeremy looks on with intense jealousy. The blonde wonders why Lucas is receiving special treatment and how this will affect his own standing. At that moment, a hand in a purple glove rests on his shoulder, attempting to soothe his anger and envy. The woman tells him to remain calm, and the young man is slightly startled by the unexpected touch. With a serene look, she advises him not to concern himself with our hero's situation. This is Jessica Ryan, Jeremy's mother, who adds that there's no guarantee Lucas will even pass the exam. A malicious smile plays on her lips, suggesting she is plotting something against the protagonist. A week later, the day of their departure arrives, and the family gathers at the gate to say their goodbyes. The mother of Lucas and Julia tells them to take care of themselves, promising to visit with their favorite pudding. She then gives them each a gold coin, reminding them not to forget their good luck charm. The coin belongs to the Buon dynasty, which unified the world approximately 10,000 years ago. Their father explains that the coin features the first emperor, Mars, on the front and his weapon on the back. The protagonist immediately recognizes the face of Mars as the muscular spirit who had blessed him. His parents urge him to keep the coin on him at all times as a charm for good fortune. The young man feels incredibly fortunate to have had a wonderful family in both his past life and this one. With that, the two siblings bid farewell to their family and embark on their journey to the academy. A few hours later, the coachman announces that the sun is setting and they will make camp for the night. Night descends and a full moon illuminates the clearing where the group has decided to spend the night safely. The coachman, Forden, states that if they leave early, they will arrive in Daku, the academy's location, the following day. Julia grows excited at the news and asks if there is anything interesting to do in the city of Daku. Forden replies that the city is renowned for its annual magical dodgeball tournament held in the spring. He also mentions that the area is a foodie's paradise, boasting many delicious local cuisines. The girl's mouth begins to water, and her brother teases her, pointing out that she's even drooling. Suddenly, the protagonist senses something amiss in the air, and his expression turns serious and alert. His heightened senses detect 12 horses and 13 individuals approaching at great speed. The young man then asks Forden if this area is known for having bandits. He believes his technique has sharpened his senses and is certain he isn't imagining things. The protagonist then realizes he must be cautious as they are outnumbered in the forest. With that, he warns that a mysterious group is approaching quickly and everyone needs to prepare. Forden and the others are confused, unable to hear anything beyond the ambient sounds of the forest. Despite the uncertainty, one of the guards readies for combat, drawing his sword with a firm grip. Forden then yells for his men to arm themselves and prepare for the imminent battle. The coachman is unsure of the source of the young man's information, but prefers to be safe rather than sorry. At that moment, a group of bandits on horseback bursts from the woods, charging toward them at high speed. One of the guards is stunned, unable to believe the bandits actually appeared just as the young man predicted. The bandit leader celebrates finding more prey, while one of his men praises the chief for being right. Another one remarks that the little girl will fetch a good price and the boy will be popular with certain clients. Forden confronts them, demanding to know if they have any idea of the consequences of messing with nobility. The bandit leader is unconcerned and orders his men to eliminate everyone except the two youths. As the enemies advance, one of the guards shouts that he will provide cover for Forden in the fight. A bandit with a cruel smile raises his sword, preparing to strike down the family's guards. A moment later, swords clash, the sound of steel ringing through the dark and quiet forest. One of the mounted guards manages to impale a bandit with a spear and a clean strike. Seeing his man fall, the bandit leader's expression twists into one of pure rage. Forden also demonstrates his skill, his sword becoming stained after felling several enemies. With a determined look, he turns to Julia and tells her to leave the rest to him. He then charges at the remaining bandits with all his might, displaying immense bravery in the fray. Forden urges the young master to take Julia and flee as quickly as possible to ensure their safety. Suddenly, the protagonist hears a cry of pain, and his expression instantly darkens. One of the bandits unleashes fire magic, incinerating the family guards with a powerful fireball. The bandit leader reveals himself to be a mage, and Forden is horrified to see fire magic in action. The coachman then screams for the two youths to run into the forest while he creates a diversion. But in a moment of carelessness, Forden is struck by a decisive blow and crimson liquid erupts. Seeing his friend wounded, our protagonist cries out Forden's name in utter despair. Surrounded by bandits, the injured coachman kneels on the ground, his strength to fight completely gone. The bandit leader then threatens him, vowing to burn him for having taken out his comrade. Even injured, Forden pushes himself to his feet, swearing to protect the young masters even if it costs him his life. Lucas knows Forden is outmatched and decides he can no longer conceal his true power if he is to protect him. He remembers the coachman's kindness and realizes he has become like family to him. With a clenched fist, the young man tells his sister to hide, as the situation has grown far too dangerous. He then declares with a determined gaze that he is joining the battle to aid his friend Forden. The girl nods in understanding, pleading with her brother to be extremely careful during the fight. With that, the protagonist sprints towards the battlefield to save his friend. Meanwhile, Forden is being assaulted by multiple bandits at once and cries out in agony. Completely exhausted and wounded, the coachman collapses to his knees, unable to fight any longer. The bandit leader then raises his sword, preparing to deliver the final blow to the unfortunate man. Forden looks up with an expression of despair, accepting that his end has finally come. But before the final strike lands, a mysterious shadow intervenes, blocking the attack and saving the coachman. The bandits are stunned by the interruption, wondering what just appeared before them. Next, projectiles of golden light streak through the air, striking the bandits with deadly accuracy. Each shot hits the enemies squarely in their vital points, felling them instantly. With that, the remaining henchmen are defeated in a flash by these mysterious light-based attacks. The camera then reveals our protagonist's hand glowing with a radiant golden energy. He remarks that training was a good idea as dealing with weak bandits is incredibly easy. The bandit leader becomes enraged upon seeing his men defeated and demands to know who is responsible. With sweat pouring down his face, he realizes all his companions were taken down in an instant. He then raises his magic staff, deciding to unleash all his fury on the poor coachman. With that, an enormous fireball is launched toward Forden, intended to finish him off for good. With no strength to evade, the coachman accepts his fate, finding peace in the knowledge that the youths will survive. A smile on his face, he thanks the heavens for the opportunity to have protected the two of them. But our hero materializes in front of Forden, extending a hand to intercept the fireball. He then leaps, and with a swift motion of his hand, redirects the attack far into the distance. Forden is speechless, and with tears in his eyes, he cannot believe what he has just witnessed. With a trembling voice, he calls out to the young master, unable to comprehend how he managed such a feat. The bandit leader is also perplexed, wondering how his fireball was simply nullified. Despite this, he does not give up and prepares to cast another spell against our hero. But the protagonist, his eye glowing, confidently declares that the bandit is already finished. In the blink of an eye, the protagonist rushes forward, landing a luminous punch on the bandit leader. The blow is so powerful that the man is sent flying, and a shockwave ripples through the area. Forden is aghast at the scene, asking the young master how he was able to do that. With a victorious grin, the young man replies that he seems to have a natural gift for martial arts. The coachman begins to weep with emotion, witnessing how incredibly strong the young master has become. Suddenly, he senses something strange, and both of them become alert to a new threat. Amidst the smoke and dust, a dark and sinister presence begins to take form. A skeletal creature with razor-sharp claws and a purple aura rises from the bandit's ashes. Its grotesque skull and glowing eyes reveal it to be a creature of pure malevolence. With a horrifying roar, the monster bares its sharp teeth and prepares to strike. The creature shrieks that it will destroy them both, glaring with eyes full of hatred and fury. The monster repeats its threat, readying itself to launch a deadly assault against them. Our protagonist remains on high alert, realizing he must deal with this creature as swiftly as possible. He decides he cannot allow Julia to see the monster and must eliminate it on his own. The creature then lashes out with its sharp claws, attempting to tear the young man to shreds. But the young man is quicker, deftly dodging the blow by leaping over the creature. He then descends with a powerful punch of light aimed directly at the monster's head. The protagonist watches the blow connect, hoping it was enough to defeat the creature. His hand glowing with a purple energy, he prepares for a potential counterattack. But suddenly, a wave of dark red energy surges toward him with immense force. All at once, dark chains shoot up from the ground, ensnaring the bodies of the fallen bandits. The creature then absorbs the corpses, transforming into an even more grotesque and powerful monster. On its forehead, a purple symbol depicting a snake glows intensely, revealing the source of its power. Our protagonist then wonders that symbol is what is controlling the undead. The monster licks its lips with a purple tongue, preparing to unleash its full might on the young man. With numerous arms and legs, the creature scuttles bizarrely toward our hero. The young man concludes that if his standard attacks are ineffective, he must resort to a new technique. Concentrating his energy into his hands, he unleashes a rapid volley of light-based strikes against the monster. The attack hits the symbol on the creature's forehead directly, causing a brilliant explosion of light. The protagonist prepares to use one of his most powerful techniques to end the monster for good. With the explosive aura palm, he strikes the symbol with all of his accumulated power. The blow is so immense that a massive beam of golden light completely pierces the creature. The purple symbol is hit squarely and begins to fracture under the force of the attack. A moment later, the mark shatters into 1,000 pieces, and the monster starts to disintegrate. With the creature vanquished, the young man watches its silhouette dissolve into ash in the wind. Exhausted after the intense battle, the protagonist sits on the ground to regain his strength. He lets out a sigh of relief, thankful he was able to defeat the monster and protect everyone. His sister Julia then rushes to his side to check if he's okay after the difficult fight. She leaps into his arms, congratulating him for defeating all the bandits by himself. Forden, who had watched everything from afar, is left completely stunned, unable to process what happened. Suddenly, the protagonist senses another presence approaching and looks toward the forest on high alert. A horse whinnies, and the young man realizes their group wasn't the only one attacked by the bandits. A young woman with white hair appears on horseback, her face etched with desperation. She is bound and gagged, and our hero is taken aback to see her in such a state. In a dark chamber, we see numerous bodies hanging upside down, their appearance ghastly. A creature with sharp fangs greedily licks the red liquid that drips from them. It's the same woman from the altar, and she discovers that subject number 44 has been eliminated by someone. She decides that restoring her power is the top priority and steps into a dark, mysterious pool. The night wears on, and a waning moon shines down from the starry sky upon the group's camp. Back at the camp, Julia learns that the white-haired girl's name is Maya Rasta. Lucas finds the name familiar but cannot recall where he might have heard it before. The rescued young woman remarks that his family name also sounds familiar to her. Forden then explains that both families are noble houses residing near the city of Daku. Julia then wonders how the girl ended up being attacked by those bandits in the forest. With tears in her eyes, the young woman begins to recount the tragic events that led her there. She remembers the bandit leader's laughter as he brutally assaulted her carriage. Her guards were overcome one by one by the bandit mage's flames with no way to defend themselves. Her lady-in-waiting tried to protect her but was captured and carried off by the bandits on horseback. The white-haired girl recalls her friend's desperation amidst the inferno. She explains that revealing her noble status was futile, as the bandits were completely indifferent. She clarifies that the bandits' sole objective was to abduct children from the region's noble families. Our protagonist then comforts her, reassuring her that it's all over now, as they have been dealt with. He becomes lost in thought, trying to piece together what is truly happening in the area. Forden approaches, informing them that the two young ladies have retired to rest after the tumultuous night. The young man then asks the coachman for his thoughts on the rescued girl's story. Forden believes they are dealing with professionals who have been targeting noble children for some time. The young man muses that bandits wielding magic and the power to control the dead is highly unusual. The coachman's expression turns grave as he considers the implications of that night's events. He concludes that a terrifying demon must be orchestrating everything, controlling these puppets from the shadows. Forden states that he will report everything to the master, and that the Rasta family's cooperation will be invaluable. The protagonist then suggests they alter their plans to avoid any further trouble on their journey. The following day, the group arrives in the city of Daku, but their plan to stay is immediately cancelled. The young man explains that some bandits could still be in the city, making it safer to proceed directly to the academy. He asks his sister and their new friend to understand that this precaution is for everyone's safety. The white-haired young woman agrees with our hero's decision to avoid additional risks. With the change in plans, the protagonist's sister wears an expression of pure disappointment. With a gentle smile, he promises that on their return trip, he will treat her to anything she wants to eat. The girl's spirits lift at the promise, and the rescued young woman smiles, observing the siblings' close bond. Forden announces their entry into the city and asks if they'd like to look out the window. The two siblings then poke their heads out of the carriage to get a view of Daku. Both siblings are captivated by the beauty and scale of the city of Daku. The city is bustling with life, as people throng the streets and merchants peddle their wares. We see a father carrying his son on his shoulders as they wander through the lively city. The white-haired young woman smiles, commenting on how vibrant and energetic the place is. Lucas and Julia use the opportunity to chat and enjoy the moment with their new friend. The protagonist reflects that the city's atmosphere strongly reminds him of his past life. The wooden architecture and cobblestone streets lend the city a unique and special charm. Suddenly, a bizarre clown doll startles the two girls, who let out a scream of fear. But our hero quickly buys an assortment of sweets and pastries to soothe their nerves and lift everyone's spirits. The white-haired young woman offers a donut to Julia, who eats it with great delight. With a satisfied smile, the young man watches the two girls happily enjoy their treats. The carriage then continues its journey through the city streets, heading toward the Magic Academy. Forden stops in front of a massive gate, informing them that this is as far as he can take them. The protagonist reassures him, promising to protect his sister Julia from any harm. The girl then embraces him, declaring that she will also protect him with all her strength and magic. With a smile, the young man pats his sister's head, saying he's counting on her. Forden is moved by the scene, realizing the depth of the siblings' love and devotion to each other. The rescued young woman finds it curious that he would allow his younger sister to protect him in such a way. The coachman then bids them farewell, watching as the three youths walk off toward the academy. The white-haired girl thinks about how kind they are and points toward the academy just ahead. The protagonist smiles, reflecting on his good fortune in meeting these two on his journey. The white-haired girl is also happy, blushing as she thinks about how much they've helped her. Suddenly, the young man remembers something, and Forden materializes beside him to clarify the situation. The coachman reveals that the young woman, Maya, was once our protagonist's fiancée when they were children. However, after the divine ritual, the engagement was dissolved because he lacked any magical talent. Allen Magic Academy is one of the three most prestigious schools in the Carmina Empire, located in Daku. Freshmen undergo an examination 1 year after enrolling to be sorted into various departments. There are also exceptions for extraordinary students who may graduate earlier than their peers. Any student who passes the certification exam can graduate without completing the full 6 years. The two siblings then observe the other students preparing for the admission exam. Julia feels a pang of sadness, wishing she could take the exam alongside her newly made friend. The young man explains that she has already completed her exam and is now safely with her family. He encourages her to focus on their own exam, promising they can see each other every day if they all pass. Julia's beauty draws attention, and people wonder aloud if she is also there for the exam. They comment that she looks no older than 12 and that her brother is also quite handsome. One of the young men remarks with envy that he wishes he had such an adorable little sister. Suddenly, a woman with purple hair approaches, catching little Julia's eye. She introduces herself as Mina, the vice president of the student council at Allen Magic Academy. With a smile, the woman asks if the little girl snuck in to follow her older brother. Julia firmly denies it, proudly stating she is there to take the admission exam with him. The woman wonders if this could be the same girl who received the offer for the elite class. With a knowing smile, she realizes the young girl is indeed a prodigy and will make an excellent student. She then kneels down, asking if she is Julia from the esteemed noble Ryan family of the region. Surprised, the girl asks how she so easily knew her name and that of her family. Mina invites her to the registration area, completely overlooking our protagonist. Little Julia then speaks up, pointing out that her brother also needs to register for the admission exam. Mina is embarrassed, realizing she had completely forgotten about our hero standing right there. The young man then begins to mock mages, remarking that coming to a magic academy is utterly ridiculous. He thinks to himself that mages believe they are superior, but to him, they are nothing more than insignificant bugs. Losers like Jeremy and that bizarre monster are no match for his overwhelming power. The young man grumbles that he is only wasting his time here because of his parents' good intentions. The student council member realizes he was speaking aloud and becomes flustered by the situation. Mina apologizes for the oversight and calls him by name to confirm his identity. Lucas then realizes he has become the center of attention and tries to mask his irritation. Mina invites them to accompany her, offering to show them to the examination hall. The protagonist is pleased to notice she is one of the few who doesn't look at him with prejudice. The group soon arrives at a vast hall where a large crowd of students is already assembled for the exam. Using magic, Mina distributes emblems and instructs everyone to register with a council member. She explains that the exam number is on the emblem, which must be worn throughout the test. The exam consists of 3 parts measuring magical potential, testing elemental compatibility, and assessing destructive power. Our protagonist inquires if the process is identical for the martial arts department. The young man mutters to himself, thinking they were too lazy to design a specialized test. With that, he cracks his knuckles, preparing to show everyone the true power of a martial artist. He resolves to demonstrate the might of martial arts and shatter their preconceived notions. An instructor announces the start of the test, directing students to place their hands on the magical orb. When it's our hero's turn, the instructor eyes him with a look of pure disdain and contempt. The man is stunned by the result, declaring it a once-in-a-millennium phenomenon. The young man's magical potential is 0, and the hall erupts in ridicule. He lets out a weary sigh, thinking he is reliving the same ordeal from his childhood. Next, a girl with purple hair places her hand on the sphere of light to measure her potential. The other students gasp as a purple light emanates from the magical sphere. The color purple signifies a potential of 7 out of 10, marking her as a first-class student. Our protagonist doesn't understand the excitement. To him, it's nothing particularly special. He then shouts to his sister, encouraging her not to hold back and to show everyone her true power. The girl grips the sphere with both hands, concentrating to unleash her energy. The sphere begins to glow with an intensely brilliant golden light, blinding everyone present. A beam of golden light shoots up to the ceiling of the hall, leaving everyone awestruck by the display of power. The other students are in disbelief, unable to accept what they are witnessing. A number 10 materializes in the light, indicating the girl possesses the absolute maximum magical potential. Everyone is mesmerized by the young girl's talent, hailing her as a prodigy among prodigies. After the test, the girl smiles, pleased with her result, and looks at her brother with pride. She bounds over to him, asking if she was incredible during the potential test. The young man praises her, saying that one day, with her talent, she will become a great archmage. 2 envious students begin to mock our protagonist, but are quickly shushed by a friend. The protagonist thinks to himself that everything is proceeding as planned, and it isn't worth starting a fight. He realizes that as long as Julia's talent shines brightly, he can enjoy a peaceful school life. All his hard work to enhance his sister's talent is finally bearing fruit. He had used the mage's consecration, ability to amplify the girl's magical potential. The instructor announces the second test, and the students all make their way to the spirit cabin. They enter a grand hall with a glass ceiling that bathes the entire space in light. Hand in hand, the 2 siblings walk toward the location for the next phase of the exam. The compatibility testing area is a large hall featuring several blue pillars in its center. Numerous elemental spirits flit about the hall, showcasing a wide diversity of magical powers. The other students are amazed by the variety of spirits present in the room. The moment little Julia enters the hall, all the spirits begin to flock and circle around her. With a smile, the girl interacts with the spirits, who seem to genuinely enjoy her presence. One of the students complains that he was unable to attract a single wind spirit. Our protagonist smiles, knowing his sister possesses maximum compatibility with all the elements. He thinks to himself that his special ability is safely and effectively boosting the girl's potential. The instructor announces Julia's score as 9.6, the highest among all the students. With this result, the girl finds herself surrounded by gazes of both admiration and envy. Other students praise her and ask to be her friend, but she becomes overwhelmed by the sudden attention. She then runs and clings to her brother, seeking comfort and protection in his embrace. The protagonist comforts her, asking what happened to make her so frightened all of a sudden. The girl explains that everyone's stares are making her scared, and she hides behind him. The young man explains that as a genius, she will have to get used to receiving such attention from now on. He advises her not to worry about others and to gradually accustom herself to the spotlight. The young girl then smiles, declaring she needs to become stronger so she can protect her older brother. The protagonist realizes he needs to work on strengthening his sister's mental fortitude for the future. Meanwhile, two students discuss little Julia's astounding performance on the exam. One of them remarks that her brother is useless, noting his compatibility score was 0. They recall how, when our hero entered the hall, all the spirits had fled from him. The spirits had appeared to feel a deep sense of disgust and repulsion in the young man's presence for some unknown reason. One of the students also mentions a strange incident that occurred after the second test. He recounts seeing one of the fire spirits' arms tear itself off, an event that nearly scared him to death. His friend dismisses it, saying the spirits are tiny and he must have been seeing things. Our protagonist overhears their conversation and becomes pensive about what they are discussing. He can't believe there was a witness to what had transpired during the second exam test. The young man remembers that the fire spirits were particularly nasty to him due to their connection with the fire god. As the test concluded and he was about to leave, he had offered a small warning to the spirits. The protagonist recalls one of the fire spirits angrily spitting fire directly at him. He thinks to himself how childish it is to hold a grudge over something that happened so long ago. The young man then picks up a small pebble from the ground, clenching it firmly in his hand. With a swift motion, he flicks the stone at the spirit, hitting it squarely and knocking it down. The young man declares that a mere servant of the fire god has no right to act superior to him. Taking his sister's hand, he invites her to join him for the final test of the admission exam. The girl says everything will be fine as long as he doesn't use his full strength in the test. With a reassuring smile, he tells her he plans to let her protect him. As always, the site for the destructive power test is a large arena dotted with numerous metal dummies. The dummies are crafted from a special, gleaming metal designed to withstand the students' attacks. The two siblings then walk toward the arena for the final stage of the admission exam. A group of envious students complains that the genius girl has stolen the top spot from them. One of them shouts that there's no way a child could possibly break one of the metal dummies. They explain that the dummies are forged from a special metal and reinforced with a defense enchantment. The protagonist studies the dummies, noting they appear quite durable and difficult to break. He thinks this is a perfect opportunity to test his level 6 abilities on the targets. The young man is excited by the chance to use such expensive, high-quality equipment. Suddenly, a student shoves him aside, attempting to cut in line for the exam. A girl with short hair then yells at the student, ordering him back to the end of the line. She points to another girl, stating that the rule is clear: the talentless must go to the back. Her eyes glow with an intense red light, showcasing the power she holds within. The other girl is intimidated by her gaze and the menacing aura she exudes. With her heart glowing, the dark-haired young woman prepares to demonstrate her strength. She positions herself before our protagonist and his sister with a serious, challenging expression. With a disdainful sigh, she glares at the girl who had tried to cut the admission exam line. Julia and her brother watch the scene unfold, unsure of what to expect from this mysterious girl. The dark-haired young woman asks if she is Julia, the girl who scored a 9.6 on the test. Her eyes blaze with a frightening intensity as she stares down little Julia with contempt. Frightened, the little girl hides behind her brother, calling his name in a trembling, scared voice. She tells the protagonist that the girl in front of them is extremely scary and intimidating. The young man then turns to the dark-haired girl, asking who she is and what she wants with them. She introduces herself as Awa Miranda, granddaughter of the powerful and influential Duke Miranda. The protagonist recognizes the Miranda family crest, marking them as one of the Empire's 3 great families. Our hero's mother Catherine also hailed from the Miranda family, a lineage of legendary mages. This means the young Awa is the daughter of his mother's younger brother, making them cousins. The girl is confused, wondering what he is talking about, as she has never heard of him. The young man then clarifies that they are cousins and asks her not to glare at him in such a manner. Awa becomes furious, having never been told of a cousin, and calls him a rude and arrogant person. She swears she will humiliate him in front of everyone, her eyes flaring with a malicious power. The young woman then prepares to strike our protagonist with a powerful and destructive spell. Awa casts a mind control spell, commanding the young man to strip off his clothes for public humiliation. But the protagonist simply offers a mocking smirk, as the spell has absolutely no effect on him. The dark-haired girl is in utter shock, seeing that her magic failed to work as intended. The young man then taunts her, questioning the quality of the upbringing provided by the noble Miranda family. Awa cannot comprehend how her signature spell failed to control the dark-haired young man. The protagonist provokes her further, stating that her weak magic is useless against a martial artist. At that moment, the instructor calls our hero's name for the next test of the exam. Before leaving, he points to his sister, warning her not to show off too much during her test. Awa then turns her attention to Julia, vowing to steal the top spot from her in the power test. A magical screen displays the student rankings, with Julia firmly in first place. The young man notes that his cousin is in second place and has effectively declared war on his sister. He thinks that for the sake of a peaceful school life, he cannot allow her to take first place from Julia. With that, he offers a piece of candy to his sister to ensure she performs well on the upcoming test. The girl eats the candy, only to make a face of disgust at its bitter and unpleasant taste. The young man gives her a firm pat on the back to help her swallow the pill he gave her. The young girl complains that he deceived her, as that was no candy but some kind of medicine. He apologizes, explaining that it's a special magic potion crafted from very rare ingredients. The instructor calls our protagonist's name once more, and he hurries to the testing site. The young man then walks toward the metal dummy for his destructive power test. The instructor directs number 5 to strike the dummy with all his might for evaluation. The young man informs the instructor that he cannot use magic, a statement which confuses him. He then asks if he can simply strike the dummy to complete the power test. With a confident smile, he prepares to demonstrate the power of his martial arts. The other students begin to jeer, saying he will end up breaking his hand on the test. Julia becomes furious upon hearing the malicious comments about her brother and prepares to intervene. She thinks that if her brother hadn't told her to behave, she would have already taught them a lesson. Iwa asks if her brother truly cannot use magic, intrigued by the situation. She recalls her mental magic having no effect on him and finds it difficult to believe. The protagonist's sister proudly defends her brother, declaring him an incredible person. But the dark-haired young woman is skeptical, suspecting she is being deceived by her older brother. Suddenly, a massive crash echoes through the arena, and everyone turns to the screen in shock. Our protagonist's cousin is stunned by what transpired during the young man's test. One of the students asks what just happened, but no one can make sense of the scene. The young man had asked if he could deliver just a single blow, and the instructor had readily agreed. The man had said he didn't care about the method of attack, as long as he performed it. With a determined gaze, our hero prepares to reveal his true power to everyone. He explains that his abilities grow exponentially every 3 levels of power. With his power now at level 6, he readies himself to use one of his strongest techniques. The young man stumps his foot hard on the ground, concentrating all his energy for a devastating attack. His eyes glowing, he rushes at blinding speed toward the metal dummy. With a punch wreathed in golden flames, he squarely strikes the metal dummy before him. The dummy beeps a red circle indicating the blow was successfully registered. The impact is so immense that the dummy is sent flying, crashing into the arena wall. A large cloud of dust billows up, and the entire arena trembles from the force of the attack. As the dust settles, the metal dummy is revealed to be completely destroyed, a gaping hole in its chest. Our protagonist then turns to face the crowd with an expression of pure confidence. A was shocked, realizing his attack was as swift as high-level wind magic. She also notes that the dummy had glowed gold, a sign of devastating attack power. The dark-haired young woman realizes she is the only one who grasped the young man's true strength. The instructor congratulates him, noting it's the first time in a decade a dummy has been broken. The young man smiles and offers his thanks as his sister celebrates his success in the power test. With a victorious smile, the girl flashes her brother a peace sign, celebrating his triumph. The protagonist thinks he managed to avoid a 0 and conceal his true strength, thanks to those who underestimated him. As time passed, the students ceased to pay attention to the young man's destructive power. Everyone was far more captivated by the rare and astonishing talent of the small yet powerful Julia. The girl then focuses, beginning to gather a massive amount of magical energy around herself. Purple lightning arcs from her hands, and her staff glows with a frightening intensity. A purple magic circle forms on the ground as she prepares to unleash her most powerful attack. Her hair whipping around her, she shouts the spell's name and unleashes a barrage of red lightning. The red bolts rain down from the sky with devastating force, striking the metal dummy. The dummy beeps red, indicating the attack was red lightning, the second most powerful type. The other students are in awe of the girl's power, praising her as an honor roll student. But after the attack, Julia slumps to the ground, and others wonder if she was shocked by her own spell. The girl is confused, not understanding how she suddenly managed to wield such immense power. The instructor announces a score of 9.5, and the dummy crackles with a few red sparks. The young girl tells her brother she was startled when the red lightning appeared out of nowhere. She explains that previously, she could only produce purple lightning, even at full power. The young man scratches his nose, feigning ignorance about her sudden power boost. He thinks to himself that the potion he gave her is temporarily amplifying her magical power. In this world, both mages and martial artists have their own techniques for crafting special potions. While mages brew potions, martial artists use their powers to refine elixirs. Elixirs can be directly absorbed by the body, whereas potions require a medium for consumption. Few martial artists can create the elixir of the mage's essence, which is what enhanced Julia's power. This is because the elixir refining technique must be at level 6 to be effective. Currently, only our protagonist and the Minister of Martial Arts are capable of creating this elixir. The young man thinks that if his ability were discovered, he would have a major problem on his hands. The sun shines brightly over the academy as the students await the final exam results. 2 small birds chirp on a tree branch, highlighting the tranquility of the moment. Julia complains about the wait, and her brother tells her to be patient, as they will be able to rest soon. Suddenly, a voice calls out to the 2 siblings, and they turn to see who is speaking. It's Mina from the student council, waving to the 2 siblings with a smile. The young man asks what she's doing there, and the woman approaches them calmly. She explains she is there to post the class assignments and congratulates them on their performance. Julia is overjoyed to learn she placed first in the academy's elite class. Our protagonist praises her, saying he's counting on her for their future at the school. Mina asks if the girl has already chosen a department to join for the upcoming school year. She explains the academy has 5 special departments: earth, fire, wind, water, and a special division. Julia considers her attributes and the blessing of the wind god, deciding to join that department. The student council member becomes excited, saying she will look forward to seeing her in the wind department. The young man thinks she is already working hard to recruit new talent for her department. Mina then offers to escort the young girl to the female dormitory, and she bids her brother farewell. Our hero says goodbye to her and decides to head to his own department of martial arts. The other students remark that Julia, as expected, took first place. The magic screen displays the final results, making all the other freshmen seem like mere background characters. Awa is furious at her loss and vows that one day, she will be first in the class no matter what. Our protagonist is unsurprised by the low priority given to his martial arts department. He arrives at the dormitory to find a decrepit building that looks like it's falling apart. With a smile, he thinks that at least the place will be quiet, allowing him the peaceful school life he desires. Suddenly, a young man with white hair appears, greeting him with an enthusiastic smile. He introduces himself as Kai Taroi, expressing his happiness at meeting his new department mate. Kai compliments his strength in the test, but Lucas, while filling out a form, dismisses it as mere luck. A dormitory staff member then hands him a room key, informing him it's on the building's 2nd floor. The white-haired young man is thrilled they will be sharing a room, and our hero agrees. With that, the two walk down a filthy, neglected hallway in search of room 205. Upon reaching the door, they realize someone else is inside and open it to investigate. They find 2 other young men in the room, which surprises the protagonist's new companion. One introduces himself as Collins and the other as Sharp, stating they will be their new roommates. The white-haired young man is in complete shock at the situation and begins to break out in a cold sweat. The camera then reveals the room's deplorable condition, with old furniture and heavily molded walls. Kai is disgusted by the filth, demanding to know what kind of infernal, grimy room this is. With revulsion, he covers his face, declaring the room is worse than a pigsty. Suddenly, he is startled by a spider and asks if Lucas seriously intends to stay in such a dirty place. The other roommates assume he is a rich, spoiled boy with a fear of germs. At that, Kai pulls a gleaming gold coin from his pocket, holding it firmly in his hand. The other 2 young men eye the coin with expressions of pure greed and determination. Kai offers the coin to whoever cleans the room, and Lucas is shocked to see him casually toss away a month's salary. While the others clean, the protagonist reflects that he was never warned he would be living in a garbage dump. His roommate tries to cheer him up, insisting things will get better, but our hero remains highly skeptical. The white-haired young man continues his complaints, comparing the room to a prison cell. Lucas warns him to be careful, as the student council might take action if they overhear his complaints. After a great deal of work, the dormitory building finally appears somewhat more respectable from the outside. The room is now sparkling clean, leaving the 2 young men very pleased with the result. With a smile, Kai hands over the reward, declaring that as a roommate he will protect them all. The other 2 are amazed by the reward, and our protagonist also holds his coin. The young man thinks that while his roommate may be arrogant, his generosity makes it hard to dislike him. Just then, the dormitory staff member knocks on the door, announcing he is there to deliver their academy uniforms. He informs them that the entrance ceremony is about to begin and they need to change. Kai is appalled by the tattered uniform, complaining that he will look like a beggar if he wears it. Lucas then mentions the school has a request system for improving student treatment. He adds that they might even be able to request a new, undamaged uniform. Hearing this, Kai excitedly leaps out the window, head to the hall, and the protagonist finds him incredibly naive. The scene then cuts to the academy's main hall, which features a large statue of a witch at the front. Now in his uniform, our hero walks with confidence toward the ceremony hall. His determined expression shows he is ready for whatever the academy throws at him. He then enters the immense hall, which is already filled with students for the entrance ceremony. His roommates find the hall luxurious, but Kai claims his own house is even more impressive. The protagonist scans the crowd for his sister, and Kai points to the front, explaining that the elites sit there. Julia is seated at the front wearing the beautiful white and gold uniform of the elite class. His roommate then informs him that their department's seats are located at the very back of the hall. With a smile, Lucas says he doesn't mind, remarking that the elite uniform suits Julia perfectly. The other students from their department complain about the distant seats, feeling discriminated against. A girl seated next to the protagonist also seems dazed with the situation, observing everything in silence. Suddenly, the hall's candles ignite with a magical, golden flame, capturing everyone's attention. Following this, a massive lotus flower made of fire materializes in the center of the hall in a dazzling display of power. A hand then grasps a small flower of fire, demonstrating an impressive mastery of magic. Floating in the air, a young man declares that the new student should feel honored by his presence. He then introduces himself as the president of the student council and a future great mage. His name is Theodore Folomel, and he announces he will now explain the academy's point system. The other female students are completely captivated by him, commenting on his powerful aura. They hail him as a genius for being a level 6 mage, while the protagonist simply observes. Theodore begins his speech, explaining that the point system is the foundation of everything at the academy. He states that any resource, from rare books to magical beasts, can be acquired using these points. However, points earned through ordinary work are minimal, yielding at most 5 per hour. For this reason, he explains it is more efficient to earn points by participating in departmental events. Our hero then understands why Mina was so friendly to them before the entrance ceremony. The president reveals that his position on the council grants him a monthly income of up to 500 points. Finally, he mentions one last method for acquiring points, but one that involves a certain degree of risk. With a sinister smile and glowing purple eyes, he reveals that the final method is monster hunting. He explains that behind the school lies a mountain range teeming with magical beasts ripe for hunting. The protagonist then clenches his fist, his interest piqued by the magical beast mountain range. The protagonist smiles, thinking that place is a training ground perfectly suited for him. A few hours later, night has fallen, and we see the dormitory from the outside, bathed in moonlight. Inside the room, our hero's roommate is sound asleep in his bed. A tranquility incense burns slowly, ensuring that everyone remains in a deep slumber. With that, the young man slips out of the dormitory, preparing to head to the magical beast mountain range. He recalls that the martial arts building is located at the back of the campus, very close to his destination. Soon, the young man arrives at a massive wall, knowing the mountain range lies just beyond it. He then crouches, gathering his strength for an impressive leap. In the blink of an eye, the martial artist soars over the wall with incredible agility. The young man clears the wall, landing softly in the forest on the other side of the campus. As soon as he lands, he is ambushed by several shadowy creatures that attack without warning. But our hero deftly dodges and leaps to attack a giant purple frog with a powerful kick. The creature is taken aback by the young martial artist's speed and strength. With a precise strike, he smashes the monster's horn with all his concentrated force. The impact is so powerful that the creature's horn shatters, causing a large explosion. Thrown to the ground, the giant frog is immobilized, defeated by our protagonist. With that, the young man removes the creature's horn, which he can exchange for points at the academy. He then looks at the giant black, horned frog lying motionless on the dark forest floor. The young man explains that the horns are venomous and highly valuable for crafting magic potions. He needs points to acquire the legendary books the martial god used in his battles. He surveys the mountain range, realizing he needs to quickly pinpoint the monster's locations. With that, the young man activates one of his abilities, and his eye begins to glow with a golden light. Weaves of golden energy radiate through the forest, scanning the entire area for creatures. His ability soon locates a monster with a massive, drooling mouth full of sharp teeth. The creature is a level 1 giant rat with red eyes and a back covered in sharp spines. Without wasting a moment, our protagonist lunges forward, striking the creature with a powerful hand chop. With a cold gaze, the young man simply tells the creature to go to sleep, defeating it instantly. Immediately after, a level 2 bat attacks him, but he fells it with a single, decisive punch. He then faces off against a level 3 magic panther, showcasing his exceptional combat prowess. A series of explosions rock the forest as the young man defeats every monster he encounters. With a smile, he celebrates having gathered a wealth of materials for both his elixirs and for points. Carrying a massive sack, he notices that the forest has become unnervingly silent for his taste. The young man then touches the ground, noting the near absence of any traces of other magical beasts. He wonders if this indicates the presence of a very powerful creature living nearby in the area. To confirm his suspicion, the young man sits down and uses his perception to sense the surrounding energy. His ability guides him down a strange path in the middle of the dark and quiet forest. The path leads him to the entrance of a dark cave, from which a powerful energy emanates. From within the darkness, a giant wolf with glowing purple eyes snarls at our hero. But the protagonist is unfazed. With a confident smile, he declares he has finally found his target. The creature attacks him from a distance, but he dodges, realizing it sensed him from a kilometer away. From the cave's entrance, a bluish smoke begins to seep out, signaling the creature's presence. A giant wolf with white fur and red paws emerges from the cave, confronting our protagonist. It is a level 6 fire and ice wolf, and it snarls at the young man with its glowing purple eyes. The young man now understands why the creature is so territorial and smiles, preparing for the fight. Fearlessly, our hero advances toward the giant wolf to begin the battle at once. With an excited grin, he invites the creature to dance and readies for the first strike. He then lands a powerful punch on the wolf's paw, but the creature seems to feel nothing at all. The wolf counter-attacks with a blast of ice from its mouth, aimed directly at our protagonist. But the young man forms an ice shield with his hand, successfully protecting himself from the creature's attack. The creature is astonished to see its own ability turned against it by the young man. Seizing the opportunity, the young man lands an ice-infused punch on the giant wolf's eye. He then uses his other hand to pummel the creature's head with a series of icy blows. The wolf then strikes with its tail, but our hero manages to block the attack with his arms. The young man laments not having trained harder, as he could have torn off the creature's leg with that blow. He then challenges the wolf to get up, asking if it has already grown tired of the battle. Wounded, the giant wolf rises to its feet, preparing to use its other element in the fight. It then opens its mouth and unleashes a powerful fireball toward our protagonist. The young man dodges the attack, and the fireball slams into the cave entrance, causing an explosion. Next, the creature launches a continuous stream of fire at the young martial artist. The fiery assault illuminates the entire forest, forcing our protagonist to dodge swiftly. The wolf becomes completely wreathed in flames, preparing for a devastating attack. With a howl, the creature unleashes the full force of its firepower upon our protagonist. But the young man manages to close the distance and grapple with the wolf, enduring the searing flames. The creature is surprised by the young man's courage, unable to understand how he can withstand the intense heat. His fist glowing with golden energy, the martial artist prepares a counterattack. He then lands a mighty punch on the wolf's chin with all his concentrated force. The blow is so powerful that the creature's jaw is damaged by the sheer impact. Following up, the protagonist launches a blast of golden energy to conclude the battle. The wolf is hit squarely and sent flying into the cave wall by the force of the attack. Lying on the ground, the young man is impressed by the creature's mastery over both fire and ice. The creature appears defeated, whimpering in pain on the ground with no strength left to stand. In its eye, a yin-yang symbol materializes, reflecting its dual nature of fire and ice. His eyes glowing, the young man remarks that this is an incredibly rare magical beast. He then seizes the wolf by the neck, demonstrating that he is now in complete control of the situation. The creature seems to submit, yet still exhales a faint aura of fire and ice from its mouth. Our protagonist then reveals that he too can control the two opposing elements. With that, they both unleash a simultaneous blast of fire and ice at each other. The clash of elements creates a massive cloud of steam, and the young man wonders what is happening. From the midst of the smoke, a blade of golden energy shoots toward the giant wolf. The creature manages to evade the attack, scrambling up the cave wall to escape the blow. Wounded, the giant wolf flees desperately through the cave, trying to escape the battle. But the protagonist gives chase, declaring that he will not allow it to escape under any circumstances. He then reaches out to grab the wolf's tail, preventing its flight. With that, the young man catches the creature and slams it forcefully against the cave wall. The wolf hits the ground with a heavy thud, and our hero prepares for his next move. The young man thinks that fighting a giant magical beast is highly entertaining, and it is surely worth a lot of points. Suddenly, he notices the creature has risen again and prepares for another confrontation. The wolf then curls into a ball of fur and hurtles toward the young man with full force. But our hero manages to dodge the attack, and the wolf crashes into the cave wall. The creature then turns and unleashes a massive blast of fire in an attempt to hit the young man. Our protagonist leaps to evade the attack, realizing the wolf is now using shadow fire. The creature then attacks him with shadow fire from one side and ice from the other in a combined assault. But the young man dodges and descends with a powerful punch, intending to end the battle once and for all. He then channels all his energy into a single punch, preparing for the final blow. With that, a massive explosion of golden light occurs, and the cave floor begins to tremble violently. The creature then bites down hard, and the young man wonders if this is truly his end. He decides he has no choice but to use his last resort to survive. Suddenly, the wolf attacks with its giant red paws, attempting to crush him in one fell swoop. Our protagonist's expression turns serious as he prepares to unleash one of his most powerful techniques. With that, the giant wolf charges toward him for the final clash between the two. The wolf then reveals two magic cores, one of fire and one of ice, to our protagonist. The young man wonders if that is a beast core and is awestruck by the sight. He recalls that some beasts are born with a core that houses all their magical power. The young man then realizes that if his blood touches the core, the creature will become his loyal servant. With a confident smile, the martial artist accepts the creature's offer, making it his subordinate. He thinks this is an unexpected windfall, noting that not even mages possess a level 6 beast. However, he remains suspicious of the wolf's behavior, as powerful beasts would never willingly submit to a human. With that, the young man cuts his finger, allowing his blood to drip onto the two magic cores. The blood then spreads across the cores, and intense light begins to illuminate the cave. The wolf then swallows both cores and kneels before its new master in a display of respect. Next, the cores fuse with the creature's body, and it begins to transform. The protagonist then hears a voice in his mind, realizing it's the wolf addressing him as master. The young man is confused, unable to understand how he can hear the creature's thoughts. He realizes he can now comprehend what the creature is saying, and is taken aback. The martial artist then names it Ol, and the wolf joyfully accepts its new name. The young man wonders if the wolf's territory now belongs to him, and if there might be any hidden treasures. With an intelligent look, the creature seems to perceive its new master's thoughts. The wolf then nudges him with its snout, as if in agreement with his idea. It then beckons him to follow, indicating it will show him where its treasures are hidden. Ol then leads him through the dark cave toward its secret treasure stash. As Ol guides him through the cave, the young man notices a strange odor emanating from some bats on the ceiling. The protagonist then covers his nose to block out the foul smell permeating the cave's air. They arrive at Ol's treasure hoard, which contains monkey bones and even some rare precious gems. At the sight of such a vast collection of treasures, the young man's jaw drops, thinking he's found paradise. But Ol informs him that this is not its true treasure and beckons him to see what truly matters. The wolf then reveals a collection of level 3 beast cores and even 2 level 6 ones. The creature explains that it consumed all the water and fire cores it could find to become stronger. The young man realizes that Ol has defeated 2 opponents as powerful as itself and is deeply impressed. To reward it, the martial artist offers it an elixir, which the wolf consumes with great delight. After eating the elixir, the creature is suffused with a golden energy and appears to feel much better. The young man explains that it is a healing potion and instructs Ul to recover and guard the treasure for him. With that, the creature accepts its first mission, proudly declaring to leave everything to it. The protagonist then prepares for his next move, with his new and powerful ally at his side. A confident smile on his face, the young man appears to be plotting something for his future at the academy. The scene then cuts to the academy's classroom building on the morning of the following day. The young man enters the classroom and takes his seat for the first lesson of the day. He yawns, mentioning he was up all night but isn't tired thanks to the sleep incense. The young man complains that Ul kept pestering him while he was trying to count his newfound treasures. A clock on the wall then begins to chime, signaling that the class is about to start. The classroom's blackboard is shown as the students await the professor's arrival. The students wonder where the professor is, as he should have been waiting for them in the room. Kai grows anxious, thinking the administration forgot to assign a professor to their class. Suddenly, they hear footsteps and a man stumbles in the room, swaying from side to side. The man then kicks a liquor bottle, complaining that he drank too much the previous night. He then slams his book onto the desk with force, startling all the students in the classroom. Our protagonist and his roommate are shocked by the new professor's dramatic entrance. The man introduces himself as Shugart, stating he's responsible for the martial arts department. The young man observes the professor intently, sensing he is no ordinary man. Shugart then writes his name on the blackboard with a piece of white chalk, his hand steady. With a yawn, he picks up his book, preparing to begin the first class of the day. Our hero's roommate is appalled by the professor's appearance and begins to sweat nervously. He cannot believe that this disheveled man is their martial arts professor. Suddenly, the professor shouts, and the sheer force of his voice sends the two young men flying backward. Kai rubs his head, wondering why the professor suddenly screamed, and our hero is just as clueless. But the protagonist recognizes the professor's swift movement as that of a highly skilled individual. He concludes that Shugart must be at least a level 5 or level 6 martial artist. The professor then instructs them not to speak without his permission and begins taking attendance. He calls for Tishi and the girl raises her hand, confirming she is present. Next, he calls for our protagonist, who also raises his hand and answers. The professor then calls for Collins, and our hero recalls having seen the girl before. Shugart announces he forgot the textbooks and appoints Tishi as the representative to go retrieve them. The girl is surprised by the appointment, wondering if he is being serious. The professor then confirms that he is indeed serious, looking at her with a determined expression. Kai stands up, arguing that the representative should be chosen fairly through competition. He then boasts about his family and skills, declaring himself the most qualified candidate for the role. But before he can finish, the professor strikes him in the forehead with a piece of chalk. His fingers glowing, Shugart reveals that he was the one who threw the chalk at the white-haired young man. He then reminds him not to speak without permission and forcefully snaps the chalk in his hand. The professor sends Tishi to fetch the books and instructs everyone else to study independently. The girl is pleased with the opportunity, thinking she must seize this chance to change her destiny. Kai complains about the pain, calling the professor a jerk, while our protagonist observes him. Our hero suspects the professor has suffered a severe injury, based on the way he moves. Shugart glares back at him, and the protagonist wonders just how strong he was before his injury. The young man then states that he didn't complain about anything, and Kai calls him a coward for not speaking up. The scene cuts to a few hours later, in front of the Magic Academy's dining hall. The two friends walk together, with Kai complaining that they only had self-study because of their professor. Suddenly, the protagonist's sister appears, calling out to him with an excited smile. The young man then affectionately pats his sister's head, asking how her first class went. She tells him her teacher, Linda, is incredibly nice and even encouraged her to become class representative. The girl then asks if her brother was chosen as the representative for his department. With a smile, our protagonist informs his sister that he was not the one chosen this time. The young man then invites everyone to lunch, and Julia gets very excited at the prospect of eating. At the academy, meals are purchased with points, and the exchange rate varies for each department. The dining hall table is laden with delicious food, including cakes and other sweets for everyone. Julia eats happily, offering some of her food to her brother, who smiles beside her. Meanwhile, Kai wears an expression of pure shock and despair, unable to believe what he is seeing. He cries, complaining that the elite class received 100 points for a single coin, while they only received 10. A staff member then yells at a student, telling him to leave if he has a problem with the rules. The woman states that students without talent must work hard, and Kai feels as though his rights have been stripped away. With a smile, Julia offers some of her food to Kai, trying to cheer him up. The young man weeps with emotion, telling her she is very kind, while Lucas finds him a bit overly dramatic. As the group eats, someone approaches from behind them with slow, silent footsteps. It's Maya, the white-haired girl they rescued, and she greets them with a smile. Julia invites her to eat, but she politely declines, saying she has already eaten, and offers them cookies as a thank you. The little girl is delighted by the cookies and thanks her new friend for the delicious gift. Our hero tries one of the cookies and compliments Maya, telling her she is an excellent baker. The white-haired girl becomes shy and blushes at the compliment from our protagonist. Kai then approaches, asking the young man for a cookie, which he shares with his new friend. He introduces himself, and the protagonist thinks he cannot let Kai discover she is his ex-fiancée. With that, the young woman bids them farewell and leaves, as Julia watches her go with a smile. The protagonist yawns, thinking the dining hall is a terrible place for running into acquaintances. Just then, Mina from the student council approaches, asking if they are enjoying their food. She then leans in and whispers the young man's name, sounding a bit awkward and shy. Suddenly, Theodore, the council president, floats by using fire magic, impressing everyone. The young man claps sarcastically, and our hero thinks he is a massive show-off for using magic indoors. Alone, Theodore drinks a potion, complaining that he nearly lost control of his level 6 magic. The protagonist eats a sweet, remembering he had overheard the president muttering after the ceremony. At that moment, Professor Shugart walks past their table, accidentally knocking over a bottle. Lucas notices the movement and pays close attention to what the man is doing in the dining hall. The master then exits the dining hall, still drinking, and the young man wonders where he is headed. With tears in his eyes, the professor continues to drink from his bottle, his expression one of deep sorrow. He then staggers toward a very tall and imposing clock tower. Stumbling, the man fumbles with a door, appearing to have great difficulty opening it. Two men observe him, and one asks if Shugart is the last to arrive at the meeting yet again. The other remarks that you can't blame him after what happened, and his companion laments the situation. Inside the meeting room, the professor stretches and yawns, looking utterly exhausted. A blonde woman glares at him with a serious, disapproving expression regarding his behavior. She then closes her eyes, appearing to sigh with exasperation at her colleague's attitude. An older man announces that everyone has arrived, and the meeting can finally commence. He then reveals that the day's agenda is the Academy's magical beast-taming tournament. The director explains that the ability to tame multiple beasts is crucial for survival in the Empire. Thus, the tournament is an annual tradition, and over 2,000 level 1 beasts have been prepared. A man in a green suit then suggests that the martial arts students be excluded from the tournament. Shugart slams his hand on the table, infuriated by the other professor's prejudiced suggestion. With a furious glare, the master of martial arts vehemently opposes the idea, defending his students. The blonde woman then agrees with Shugart, stating that all students must participate in the event. Other professors concur, asserting that all students should be treated with equality. The man in the green suit doesn't understand why everyone is siding with Shugart and Linda. He wonders if they still believe the martial arts professor is a level 8 powerhouse. Nevertheless, he relents, stating that the martial arts students can participate if they insist. The director then declares the matter settled. The martial arts department will participate. After the meeting, the man in the green suit exits the room, followed by other professors. One of them asks Linda if she is certain about her decision to support Master Shugart. They acknowledge that martial arts require combat, but feel the tournament is too demanding for them. With a confident smile, the blonde woman appears to have a plan in mind for the students. She then recalls something someone told her long ago and gazes out the window. Shugart's voice echoes, saying that a coward who cannot overcome adversity has no right to call himself a martial artist. Back in the classroom, the professor announces that the tournament for everyone will be held in 6 days. He then informs them that after class, they will have a practical combat training session outside. With a determined look, Shugart vows to ensure that every one of his students can defeat a beast. Kai complains that the tournament is only to select the representative and that their participation is unnecessary. One of the students tells him to be quiet, and our protagonist thinks he is always provoking the professor. The young man considers the combat training and decides he must be careful not to use excessive force. Outside, the martial arts students have already begun sparring with one another. One of the female students lands a powerful kick on a wooden pillar with great force and skill. With a determined expression, Tishi demonstrates that she is one of the strongest students in the department. Our protagonist thinks that they are all quite skilled and not bad at all. He realizes the professor has a keen eye, as Tishi is the strongest in the class, second only to him. The young man then joins the training, defeating his opponent with a swift and precise blow. After hours of training, Professor Shugart announces that the day's session has concluded. Kai collapses to the ground exhausted, celebrating that the training is finally over. His other roommates say they are heading to the dining hall and promise to bring back food for him. The white-haired young man explains that he made a deal with Collins to earn more points. One of the roommates gets annoyed for not being informed of the deal, and Kai apologizes. Our protagonist thinks that Collins is clever for making deals to earn extra money. Kai then gets up and brags about his intelligence to our hero outside. He tells the young man he should learn from him, offering the lesson free of charge. But the protagonist clamps a hand on his shoulder, his firm grip indicating he's not interested in the offer. With a smile, he declines the offer, leaving Kai feeling awkward at his friend's response. The white-haired young man then grumbles that the protagonist doesn't need points because of his sister. Night falls and a crescent moon shines in the sky over the magical Beast Mountain range. The protagonist thinks that Kai is mistaken, as he doesn't need his sister to provide for him. He then wipes the corner of his mouth, stating he has all the bounty of nature at his disposal. With his new ally Ol by his side, he prepares for another night of hunting and training. The young man then roasts a large piece of meat over a campfire for himself and his new companion. He laments having to take his sister home as he could use the time for more training. The young man recalls Mina's attempts to get close to his sister and decides he cannot let his guard down. With a determined look, he vows that if she has ill intentions, he will make her regret it. Ole then wags its tail, drawing its master's attention to the roasting food. The wolf drools at the smell of the meat, waiting anxiously for its meal. With a smile, our hero offers the food to his new friend, who eats it with great joy. The young man reflects that having a tame beast isn't so bad after all. He then tells Ole that after they eat, it will help him train, but promises not to hurt it. The night of training is intense, and Ole soon realizes that its master's promise was not kept. Meanwhile, at the Ryan family mansion, the night is calm and peaceful under the moonlight. Our protagonist's mother, Catherine, sits alone in the garden with a sorrowful expression. Her husband, Holt, then approaches from behind, comforting her with a gentle hand on her shoulder. He asks if she is thinking about the children, and she admits she can't hide anything from him. With a smile, the man says their classes must have already begun at Allen Academy. With tears in her eyes, the woman appears deeply worried about her children's well-being. Holt offers to take her to visit the children, and the woman thanks him with a smile. Tears of joy in her eyes, she is overjoyed at the prospect of reuniting with her children soon. The scene then cuts to the estate of Count Grindu, where a secret meeting is underway. A barefoot woman walks toward a group of hooded and masked individuals. The cult members observe her with malicious smiles and glowing red eyes. The green-haired woman then greets Jessica, expressing her pleasure that she could attend. She then invites her to take a seat and join the secret gathering of the mysterious cult. Cloaked and masked, Jessica, Jeremy's mother, appears to be involved with the malevolent group. The cult leader presents her latest creation, the Jade Dream, a highly potent potion. Jessica then takes a goblet of the beverage, preparing to sample the cult's new concoction. The leader then slices her own arm, allowing her red blood to drip into the goblets. The crimson liquid mixes with the drink, and the woman seems to derive pleasure from the pain. For the final touch, one of the cult members adds a mysterious ingredient to the drink. The woman then instructs everyone to enjoy the beverage, and the cult members begin to drink. The leader's bare feet touch the floor as she prepares to commence the day's game. She declares that the Jade Dream is a miracle of alchemy, and the game will now begin. Jessica then holds her goblet, observing the red liquid with a pensive expression. The liquid in the goblet shifts on its own, as if alive, and the woman prepares to drink. In the darkness, one of the women wonders how an 11-year-old girl managed to defeat the Black Wind group. The leader explains that Julia inherited the combined talents of the Catherine and Miranda families, hence her power. With a sinister smile, the cult leader remarks that a mere level 7 should not have been able to defeat them. She then bites Jessica's lip, questioning if her son's efforts will ultimately bear fruit. With a finger under her chin, the woman asks if she truly desires to eliminate Catherine and her daughter to become a baroness. Jessica agrees, asking what she must do to achieve her goal and attain power. With a satisfied smirk, the cult leader prepares to give her the necessary instructions. She then activates a spell with her fingers, and a purple magic circle materializes on the floor. With a sadistic gaze, the woman muses that the moment a young bud withers is truly beautiful. Back at the academy, Tishi comments that they have another combat training session that morning. Other students complain that their bodies are aching, calling Professor Shigart a monster. But Tishi encourages them, stating the pain is necessary to become stronger and they must persevere. Kai and our protagonist claim they feel no pain, as their bodies are more resilient. The white-haired young man then boasts that he is the strongest in the martial arts class. But our hero knows this is merely the effect of the sleep incense he used the previous night. Tishi observes the four of them, thinking they possess impressive stamina to endure the intense training. With that, Kai steps forward for combat training, preparing to spar against our protagonist. He attacks with a punch, but our hero easily evades it, blocking the blow with his hand. The white-haired young man is surprised by his friend's defense and readies his next attack. Our protagonist then counterattacks with an open hand strike, showcasing his skill. With a clenched fist, he prepares to show Kai the true strength of a martial artist. He then unleashes a flurry of swift and precise punches that land squarely on Kai. With a grin, Kai compliments him, admitting he's not bad at all in close-quarters combat. Our protagonist replies that he's not so bad himself, returning the compliment. From a distance, someone is watching the martial arts students training with rapt attention. The young man then turns, sensing he is being observed by someone from across the courtyard. He feels a fixed gaze on him and wonders who is watching him so intently. Underneath a tree, an old man with long white hair meditates in silence. Our hero then wonders if it is the old man who is observing him during training. Kai seizes the moment of distraction, landing a solid punch on our protagonist's face. The young man then knocks him down with a kick, and our hero falls to the ground with a thud. Wounded, Kai gets back up, telling our protagonist not to look away, as the fight is not over. The young man then rises, agreeing to continue the fight until one of them emerges victorious. The old man chuckles and gets up to leave after observing the students' training. A woman addresses him as Director Otani, asking if he is heading to the academy's library. With a smile, the director says he is just going for a walk, remarking that the young man he saw is fascinating. He perceives that our protagonist is concealing his true strength from everyone at the academy. The director then states that he will remember the name Lucas, deeming him a promising young man. Hours later, the class finally concludes, and our protagonist walks through the academy's hallway. He recalls that during the afternoon session, Professor Sugart taught them massage techniques. The other students enjoyed the lesson, and its effects were so profound that everyone's muscle fatigue vanished. With that, the young man prepares to head to a secret training ground to continue his journey. Our protagonist decides to purchase the materials he needs for his training ground. He heads to the Academy's magic materials shop, which sells rare and exclusive items. The young man is impressed by the shop size, comparing it to a shopping mall. In the shop, everything is paid for with points, and a high-quality training dummy costs 30 points. The young man thinks the selection is excellent, but the prices are exorbitant, and he will spend a great deal. He is unwilling to depend on his sister, as he would feel guilty if she lost her snack money. Therefore, he decides to buy only the magic potion and exchange his materials for points later. At the counter, a clerk is asleep, and our hero tries to get her attention. The woman awakens with an irritated expression, preparing to assist the new customer. The young man then presents his academy card, requesting to purchase the magic bath potion. The clerk states the price is 5 points and prepares to complete the transaction. Our hero's card glows with a purple light, and the number 5 appears on the magic sphere. The woman then realizes he is a martial arts student and judges him for spending his points. With a smile, the young man thanks her for the purchase, and the clerk hands him a bag of potions. She advises him not to waste his points, but he replies that this won't be enough. The clerk becomes annoyed, thinking he is a spoiled noble who doesn't understand the value of money. She then grumbles that she hates nobles, and our protagonist leaves the shop unfazed. Back in his hideout, the young man prepares to take his medicinal bath in the cave. He then steps into the tub of purple water, relaxing after a long day of training and classes. With a sigh of relief, the young man appears to be savoring this moment of rest. He thinks that while the medicinal effect doesn't diminish, it's a waste to simply discard the bathwater. Suddenly, he hears a noise and sees a pair of purple eyes watching him from the darkness. A giant mouth full of sharp teeth then appears, growling at our protagonist. After his bath, the young man decides to gather some materials to exchange for points at the academy. To avoid attracting attention, he decides to sell only common level 2 materials. Suddenly, he hears a noise and turns to see what is happening in the cave. He finds Al eagerly lapping up the water from his medicinal bath. The young man is shocked, demanding to know what his servant is doing with his bath water. Our hero and his servant stare at each other in silence for a moment, neither knowing what to say. The young man then says it's alright, concluding that the water will also strengthen the wolf's body. With that, the problem of waste is solved, and our hero prepares for his mission. He decides to exchange the materials gradually to avoid drawing the attention of others. At the materials shop, the clerk offers to carry his items with magic, but he declines. The protagonist thinks it's beneficial that the clerk assumes his family provided him with the materials. The following day, Professor Sugart becomes irritated with the students' lack of seriousness regarding the tournament. He yells that if they don't want to train, they can give up and go home immediately. The professor then begins correcting the student's posture with his usual strictness. He criticizes Kai's weak punch, and the young man defends himself, stating he has already defeated his classmates. With a simple flick, the professor knocks Kai to the ground, and our protagonist notes that he always aims for the eyes. The professor then asks the other 3 if they truly lost to someone so weak. With a sigh, the professor complains that spoiled nobles are always a headache. He then orders Tishy to fight Kai to teach the white-haired young man a lesson. The two take their positions on the training field, preparing for the impending confrontation. With an arrogant smirk, Kai declares he will prove who is superior through his skills. Tishy simply invites him to begin the fight, her expression calm and confident. The girl then lunges forward with a powerful kick that kicks up dust, demonstrating her strength. In the blink of an eye, she assails him with a sequence of swift and precise kicks. With a wicked smile, Kai prepares to counterattack and assert his superiority. But Tishy is faster, striking him on the chin with a powerful punch that throws him off balance. She follows up with an elbow to the face, showcasing her combat technique. The girl then utilizes a water ability, hitting him with a blast of pressurized water. Kai is stunned by the girl's ability, unable to believe she can use magic. Tishy seizes the opportunity, landing a powerful kick to his face with all her strength. The white-haired young man is dazed by the blow and lets out a nervous laugh. He then tells her not to underestimate him and prepares to use his own skills. But Tishy is quicker, striking him in the chest with a precise open palm blow. The strike is so forceful that the young man is sent flying, landing hard on the ground. Our protagonist then understands why the professor chose Tishy as the representative. The professor yells for everyone to take the training seriously as our hero observes the scene. Tishy then approaches Kai, who is still on the ground, and asks if he is alright after the fight. The professor notes that Kai seems irritated and warns him that tomorrow, everyone must tame a beast. He threatens to expel anyone who fails, and Kai is shocked by the sudden announcement. The next day, the professor instructs them to fight with all their might until nightfall as a final training exercise. Lying on the ground, Kai calls out to our protagonist with an expression of pure exhaustion and defeat. The young man advises him to correct his bad habits and focus on his opponent's weaknesses. But Kai says that's not it. He thinks he has fallen in love with Tishy after their fight. He reveals he's already thinking about names for their children, and our hero thinks he's a masochist. The following day, the tournament begins in a grand arena, and the students are called to enter. Kai is filled with dread at the thought of the monsters, and our protagonist sits beside him. Two students from the magic class mock them for being in the same tournament venue, but the professor orders them to be quiet and memorize the tournament rules immediately. Our hero is surprised to see the professor defending the martial arts students. With a thoughtful look, he realizes his master isn't as bad as he initially seemed. The young man then tells Kai to imagine the beasts are their professor to calm his nerves. Hearing this, Kai perks up, saying it's a brilliant idea to motivate himself for the coming battle. But the professor overhears their conversation and glares at them with pure fury and irritation. Our protagonist then reminds Kai that a beast cannot break his defense if he remains focused. A man appears on a holographic screen and begins to explain the tournament's rules. He states that anyone who tames 10 beasts will receive a perfect score, and the time limit is 10 minutes. Julia then announces the start of the tournament, calling the first group of competitors to the arena. The arena is then bathed in a pink light, and Julia is transported into a barrier-enclosed space. She realizes she is in a different location and wonders how so many beasts could fit inside. Next, the girl finds herself in a dark space filled with red eyes watching her. Several giant beavers with sharp teeth appear, growling angrily at the young girl. Her staff in hand, Julia prepares to confront the creatures with her powerful magic. She then casts a purple lightning spell, declaring she has captured the small magical beasts. The blast of lightning strikes the creatures, leaving them paralyzed on the dark arena floor. The man on the screen explains that when a beast submits, a purple smoke is emitted from its body. This allows the professors to monitor the students' progress and assign scores accordingly. One of the professors is shocked by little Julia's speed and efficiency in the tournament. The young girl then completes her task, and a professor congratulates her as the next pair prepares. Her teacher, Linda, praises her for finishing in just 3 minutes, and Julia happily thanks her. The girl then asks for the location of the martial arts department so she can watch her brother. The teacher informs her that they are scheduled last, and it will be some time before they compete. While waiting, a mysterious woman observes the activity in the arena with keen interest. She wonders if our protagonist will manage to repeat his feat from the entrance ceremony. 2 hours later, one of the students complains that he only managed 1 point and fears being demoted. Another student comforts him, pointing out that apart from the elite, all the mages only scored 1 point. Kai becomes desperate, wondering if they will be able to remain in the martial arts department. But our protagonist calms him, reassuring him that they are no weaker than the mage classes. The professor then cracks his knuckles, stating they are correct and should not underestimate themselves. He explains that no one was injured because level 1 beasts are incapable of harming humans. With that, the master asserts that in close quarters combat, they are stronger than low-level mages. The students are surprised by this encouragement, and the professor grumbles, annoyed at the brat's reaction. The representative Tishi reports that she has checked and confirms that no one was indeed injured. She continues, stating that most of the mages are exhausted from expending all their mana in the test. Tishi also reveals that the arena is equipped with barriers to prevent students from being surrounded. She then advises them to flee if they cannot win and to manage their stamina wisely. The students express their gratitude and celebrate the tip, and the master thinks he made the right choice for representative. Suddenly, a man with a mocking smile says he overheard someone spying on his class. The newcomer takes a seat, remarking that without talent, they can only resort to cowardly tricks. Shigard addresses him as Greg, and the man states he came to inform them that their department is next. With a sinister smile, the man threatens to shut down the martial arts department for good. The martial arts professor remains silent, appearing deeply shaken by the threat. Greg continues, asserting that the department should never have been established in the first place. With that, he turns and leaves, laughing as Master Shigart watches him depart. Lucas is reminded of the bullies from his past life and glares at the man with hatred. The protagonist stands up, declaring that as the top student in his class, he will go first. The professor asks if he is nervous, offering to send someone else in his place. With a determined look, our hero refuses the offer, insisting he will go first himself. His eyes glowing, the protagonist declares he will enter the arena first, exactly as he had planned. He then vows to achieve a high score and silence those who look down on them. At this, his classmates are invigorated, shouting that they will show what their department is capable of. Professor Shigart observes their change in attitude, recalling how fearful they were just moments before. The young men remember Tishi's advice, and the master thinks to himself that they are a bunch of simpletons. 10 minutes later, our hero sprints through Arena 10, navigating a mist teeming with monsters. With a clenched fist, the young man prepares to use his abilities to deal with the creatures. He then notices the magical perception circles, planning to avoid them in order to fight undetected. At that, the young man releases a blue aura, preparing to unleash his true power without being seen. It is explained that a master can borrow the abilities of his beast after their souls have connected. Meanwhile, in the cave, the wolf all chews on a bone, appearing very bored with the situation. The creature then wonders why its master is using its power when he is already stronger. Back in the arena, a giant spectral blue wolf paw materializes, showcasing the power he has borrowed. With this, the martial artist states that defeating the low-level magical beasts here is simple. Suddenly, a giant menacing owl appears, flying toward him with a fierce gaze. The other creatures in the arena sense the danger, screaming for everyone to flee from the high-level beast. The owl then gathers purple lightning in its talons, preparing for a powerful attack. With that, the creature soars at high speed through the arena, demonstrating its incredible agility. But our hero is unfazed, preparing to strike the owl with the spectral blue wolf paw. He thinks that to make things easier for the other students, he must first break this beast's will. The giant owl crashes to the ground, completely dazed after being struck down by the young man's blow. He reasons that the aura of a high-level beast will intimidate the weaker creatures in the arena. With that, the creature bows its head and a red aura of submission begins to emanate from its body. With a smile, he accepts its submission but states that he needs to tame every beast in the arena. Therefore, he says, he cannot allow the submission smoke to leak outside the barrier. The giant owl observes the young man, not quite understanding what he is planning to do. The protagonist then turns, announcing he is off to find the other beasts to tame. Channeling Owl's aura, he departs, and the owl screeches that it never wants to see him again. Outside, the scoreboard continues to display our hero's name with 0 points in the tournament. Kai grows desperate as time runs out, but Julia tells him to remain calm, confident her brother will succeed. Professor Greg simply scoffs upon seeing the martial arts department's score. He then mocks them, stating that a score of 0 means they couldn't even defeat the weakest beast. His students concur, remarking that this shows the difference between a martial artist and a mage. Professor Shigart remains silent, merely glaring at the other master with intense anger. Julia becomes furious, shouting at him not to mock her brother, as he is incredible even without magic. Greg is irritated, thinking the elite class is as blind as Professor Linda for defending him. He then tells the girl that the results speak for themselves, leaving no room for discussion. Suddenly, the scoreboard shows that Lucas Ryan has earned his first point in the tournament. Kai and Tishi celebrate with relief, as this means he can remain in the department with them. A professor scoffs at their celebration, pointing out that the highest score in his class was 5. But to the man's astonishment, the score for our protagonist continues to climb without pause. Reaching 5 points, Professor Greg becomes annoyed as the young man's classmates cheer wildly. The man cannot believe the department of useless students has matched the score of his top pupil. Inside the arena, the young man has intimidated all the beasts, making it easy for his classmates to score. With that, he thinks that now he just needs to achieve his perfect score and leave. At that, the martial artist begins taming all the creatures with incredible speed. One after another, the beasts are subjugated by our protagonist's overwhelming power. Finally, he reaches the 10th creature, and the giant owl once again submits to him. Seeing the final result, Professor Greg is completely stunned and breaks into a cold sweat. The scoreboard then announces that Lucas Ryan has achieved 10 points, a perfect score in the tournament. His little sister is overjoyed, and with her eyes shining, she exclaims, "That's my brother." The other students are in disbelief that the martial arts department achieved the maximum possible score. The young man pats Julia's head, and the girl says she always knew he could accomplish it. Professor Greg then shouts that it's impossible for a martial arts freshman to tame 10 beasts. With that, he points at the young man, accusing him of using an imposter to take the test. Little Julia is angered by the accusation, but her brother remains calm in the face of the situation. Suddenly, an inspector grabs Greg by the face, stating that our protagonist has done nothing wrong. The man then asks if he is insinuating that an inspector would accept a bribe to permit cheating. Greg is terrified, having forgotten about the inspectors, and knows that confronting them would be a grave mistake. He apologizes, and the inspector announces he will investigate the barrier to get a definitive answer. Kai complains that they are making a mockery of the judging, but our hero tells him to calm down. With a confident smile, the young man states that he has nothing to hide from anyone at the academy. 10 minutes later, we see the giant owl inside the arena looking extremely frightened. The barrier then dissipates, and the creatures look toward the light with surprise and confusion. The owl realizes the powerful human has vanished, and they can finally see the outside world. With that, the creature screeches for everyone to escape, and the beasts make a break for it. But one of the inspectors raises his magic staff, preparing to intervene in their escape. He then casts a containment spell toward the fleeing creatures. The magic strikes the owl squarely, trapping it in the air with a rope of golden energy. The inspector notes that the beasts are agitated, but not weak enough to warrant being replaced. One of the men then asks his colleague if he believed the students scored fairly. The head inspector replies that he found no evidence of wrongdoing, but something strange has happened to the creatures. They then decide to send the 10 beasts for a full inspection and resume the tournament. An announcement is made stating that no problems were found and the next competitors should prepare. The protagonist finds it interesting that even without proof, they still refuse to believe in his abilities. But with a confident look, he appears to be one step ahead of everyone at the academy. He glances at Tishi and his master, thinking that the real surprise is yet to come. The scene then cuts to Tishi, who runs into the arena for her own test. With a determined look, the girl tells herself that she cannot lose to Lucas. Inside the barrier, the young woman confronts a gray wolf and prepares for battle. The girl lunges, delivering a swift sequence of powerful blows to the gray wolf with great agility. She thinks that if she can't defeat it in 30 seconds, she will change tactics and head for the gate. She then leaps onto the creature's back to continue her assault and attempt to finish it. The wolf then catches our hero's scent and wonders if he is still somewhere in the arena. The representative prepares another strike with her clenched fist, aiming to end the battle. But the creature submits instantly, and the girl is greatly surprised by the wolf's reaction. She wonders how a level 3 shadow wolf could have submitted so easily and quickly. The young woman becomes pensive, questioning if it was a mere coincidence or something more. With a confident smile, she realizes that perhaps her department is not so weak after all. With that, she moves on to the next creature, attacking it with a powerful punch to the face. Her score then rises rapidly as she defeats a giant boar with ease. Kai cheers for her excitedly as her score continues to climb relentlessly on the board. The girl shouts with determination, successfully taming her 6th creature in the Academy tournament. A saber-toothed tiger is startled, and she quickly reaches 9 points in the arena. The final creature is defeated, and the young woman achieves the maximum score of 10 in the tournament. The scoreboard then announces that Tishi Hamaru has also achieved a perfect score of 10 points. Kai is stunned, commenting that she was even faster than our protagonist in the test. The girl then requests that these beasts also be sent for a detailed inspection. She thinks that the beasts are not so frightening, and that martial artists are not inherently weaker. With that, match 3 begins, and we see another student defeating a purple bat creature. The young man defeats the creature with a beam of golden energy, celebrating his victory. With a smile, he boasts about achieving the perfect score of 10 in the tournament. In match 4, a young man with green hair strikes a giant gorilla with a powerful kick. A confident smile on his face, he also celebrates his perfect score of 10 points. Next, Kai attacks a saber-toothed tiger with a potent and accurate punch to the face. The creature submits, and the white-haired young man joyfully celebrates his victory. He then gives a thumbs up, showing that he too achieved the maximum score. The scoreboard then reveals that every single martial arts student has achieved a perfect score. With this, they soar directly to the top of the rankings, tying with the elite class. Professor Shigart then allows himself a subtle smile, appearing very proud of his students. He then takes his flask and has a drink, seeming more relaxed and satisfied. The inspection reveals no issues with either the beasts or the tournament's barrier. Director Otani wonders why the scores for the martial arts department are so uniformly high. One of the inspectors theorizes that the beasts were frightened by the mage's attacks. The director then counters that the martial artists seem to frighten the creatures even more. With that, he decides that in the following year, the martial arts department will compete first in the tournament. Professor Greg is shocked, as this means they will tie with the elite for first place. Professor Shigart simply glares at him with a look of superiority, following the director's decision. Calmly, the director asks if he has any objection to the decision he has just made. Greg then questions the fairness of the decision, believing they won through sheer luck. The director replies that luck is also a component of skill, leaving Greg stunned by the response. Another man concurs, stating they cannot discard the scores as the students are not at fault. With that, the director orders the results to be announced, and Greg agrees with immense anger and frustration. The professor then watches Shigart and Linda depart, vowing to keep a close eye on both of them. With a furious expression, he appears to be plotting something against the rival department. After Greg's departure, the director and another man discuss the tournament's outcome. The man states that the matter affects the department's very existence, and that the director must know something. Director Otani says he cannot share the details of what he knows about the situation, but he promises it is nothing detrimental to the school and that he will feign ignorance for now. The scene then cuts to the martial arts students' dormitory building at the academy. Kai celebrates his perfect score, exclaiming that he must tell his father immediately. His roommates celebrate as well, remarking on how much stronger they've become since the entrance exam. Our protagonist thinks to himself that no one suspects him, and his plan has worked perfectly. Kai then asks how they will spend the 20 bonus points they received for placing first. One of the young men says he will save his, adding that he still owes our hero a meal. Kai then states the obvious answer is to buy materials for the following month's combat training. Our protagonist's interest is piqued, and he asks about the combat training. They then explain that the training takes place in Allen Tower, the Academy's official proving ground. Within it lies an illusory world populated with various races and beasts for the students to confront. However, only 100 freshmen are allowed entry, and the 12 from the elite class have their spots guaranteed. Kai becomes excited, stating that since they all scored a 10, they are certain to get into the tower training. At that, his other classmates ask where he is going, and the young man says he is off to buy equipment. With that, the two of them dash off, and our hero muses that every martial artist yearns to become stronger. Sipping his tea, the young man reflects that ensuring everyone scored in the tournament was the right decision. Kai then invites him to the materials shop, but our protagonist declines the offer. Suddenly, his roommate becomes hypnotized by a strange pendant dangling before him. Our hero reveals that Professor Shigart gave him the pendant, and that he wishes to examine it. Looking at the pendant he won, the protagonist wonders if it's the prize for a perfect score. Kai grows annoyed as the prize was meant for Tishi, but Shuichi just claims his only strength is luck. Hearing this, his white-haired friend sighs in defeat, seeming to accept the situation reluctantly. He then says his goodbyes, mentioning he's off to the supply store to find the others before leaving. Moments later, a large screen announces that everyone from the martial arts department achieved perfect scores. This news shocks the crowd, as the martial arts department has just secured the tournament's maximum score. Seeing this unexpected outcome, students from the other classes are left completely stunned and speechless. At that instant, a girl stomps her foot hard on the ground, showing all her pent-up anger and frustration. This is Leela, and she furiously complains that they were supposed to be the top class after the elites. With a furious glare, she speaks of the effort her father invested for over 10 years. Filled with rage, the young woman hurls a dagger of magical energy toward the results board. She complains that because of this, the martial arts group claimed 20 spots for Allen Tower. One of her companions agrees, stating angrily that those spots should have gone to the mages. However, another student recalls the base's teachers confirming they hadn't cheated on the test. Unexpectedly, a pink magic dagger flies at high speed right for the tournament scoreboard. A young man catches it mid-air, accusing the martial arts department of bribing the masters. Another young man suggests that the son of the wealthy Taroi family could have easily paid the bribe. The same young man with glasses adds that he saw two of the Taroi here's lackeys earlier. Andrew, one of Greg's students, reveals the pair bought all the remaining training equipment in the store. He warns that with the bonus, their precious materials will all be taken by the other department. Leela grips her staff, remarking that a martial artist's meridians are as fragile as glass. A wicked smile crosses her face as she suggests they correct the other student's growth rate. Suddenly, a dagger is thrown forcefully through the air, heading towards some trees. It strikes the ground near 3 students, one of whom questions the reason for the sudden attack. Then, one of the blonde young men collapses, injured with a strange red symbol on his back. His friend realizes it's poison and insists they need treatment immediately. The green-haired boy kneels down, sarcastically offering his points to the injured students. Seeing this mockery, Leela mercilessly unleashes a powerful green magic spell on the two. The attack strikes one of the youths head-on, who screams in pain as the magic pierces him. The other young man also agonizes with a purple mark on his face as ice spikes run him through. As she and her group approach, she says with contempt that she has no need for their points. Badly injured, the blonde student asks why she attacked if she didn't want his points. Stepping on the young man with her heel, she says her demand to spare them is actually quite simple. Holding up a potion, she demands they crawl back to the martial arts department. With a sadistic look, she tells them to inform everyone their lives are worth less than insects. As the sun sets, a scream of pure despair echoes through the forest, startling everyone nearby. Hours later, the protagonist and Kai are searching for their roommates, calling out their names. His white-haired friend asks why he's so panicked, since they're always late anyway. With a serious expression, the hero replies that today's situation is entirely different. He stops before a tree stained with red, saying he's never smelled something so strong there. As the scent of blood hangs in the air, the protagonist's expression turns grim, and a red aura surrounds him. Completely confused, Kai asks what's happening as he watches his friend dash into the forest. The white-haired young man sprints after him, demanding to know why he took off like that. They soon find their roommates collapsed on the ground, covered in red stains. The two young men lie completely motionless and gravely injured, appearing to be on the brink. Seeing the horrific scene, Kai grows furious, wondering who in the world could have done this. The protagonist kneels beside one of them to check for vital signs. With his last ounce of strength, the young man reveals it was Leela from Professor Greg's class. He manages to explain that she and her group severed their meridians before leaving. Hearing this, the hero's face darkens and a sinister blue aura begins to emanate from his body. In despair, the white-haired friend shouts his colleague Dizio's name, fearing the worst. But after checking his pulse, he realizes the young man is still alive, merely unconscious from the attack. Shuichi tells Kai to find medicine, while he tries to stop the bleeding for both of them. The young man agrees instantly and dashes off at high speed to get help for his friends. Analyzing the wounds, the hero realizes they were cursed to have every bone in their bodies broken. He recognizes the cruel technique of assassins and vows to destroy whoever is responsible. With his face shadowed, he concludes this wasn't just bullying, but a clear attempt to end them. One of the injured young men begins to hallucinate, calling for his parents and crying out in pain. The protagonist grits his teeth in rage, appearing to make a very serious decision. Kneeling beside his friend, he promises with a cold gaze that he will certainly avenge him. At that moment, Kai and Tishi arrive at a run, calling out to the protagonist as he tends to the injured. Shocked, they ask if their friends were attacked, and Kai explains he ran into Tishi on the way. Shuichi stands, explaining they aren't in mortal danger but will need to rest for several days. Relieved but still furious, his white-haired friend vows he will never forgive those responsible. Kai announces he's going to the student council, but Tishi warns they won't be taken seriously there. With a cold smile, the hero states that he couldn't care less about the student council's opinion. The class representative is taken aback by her classmate's dark and unfamiliar expression. Enveloped in a blue aura, he looks like a completely different person from his usual gentle self. With eyes full of hatred, the young martial artist vows to see this vengeance through himself. The next day, the group makes its way to the student council room to file a formal complaint. Council President Theodore listens intently to their story and says he understands. Seated at his desk, he asks if they truly wish to duel Professor Greg's students. Shuichi confirms, adding that if they lose, they will forfeit their S-rank bonus to the other class. The president scoffs, remarking there's no proof and asking if the bonus is the pendant in his hand. He then dangles the wolf's fang pendant before them all with an air of superiority. The tournament prize swings back and forth in front of the protagonist and his friend. Suddenly, the president drops the pendant, claiming his hand slipped by accident. With an arrogant look, he asks if they don't find it inappropriate to wager something so cheap in a duel. The pendant lies on the floor near Shuichi's boot as he clenches his fist in silent rage. A golden light flashes in Kai's eye, showing his patience has finally snapped. Furious with the president, Kai moves to act, but the protagonist stops him from doing anything rash. Shuichi then calmly asks what would be considered an appropriate wager for their duel. The council president considers this for a moment, casually running a hand through his hair. The protagonist suggests that something unique to the school would be a fitting bet for the showdown. At this, an idea seems to strike Theodore and a malicious smile forms as he begins to speak. His eyes gleam as he suggests betting their entry qualifications for the Allen Tower. The proposal is that the losing side will permanently forfeit their right to enter the tower. Without a moment's hesitation, the protagonist accepts the wager with a serious, determined look. The duel is scheduled for 2 days later, and many disgruntled students cheer for Greg's class. Professor Greg, without any remorse, even praises the 3 students who attacked Shuichi's classmates. Meanwhile, Master Shigart quietly intensifies their combat training sessions. The martial arts professor observes his students training with a focused and very serious gaze. When the day of the duel arrives, a grand arena has been set up for the confrontation before a massive crowd. Some students murmur that it will be interesting and that they plan to support the martial arts department. Leela then taunts Shuichi, offering that if he apologizes now, she might just forgive him. But the hero calmly retorts that none of them know how this match will end yet. Kai brandishes his dagger, declaring he wants to get this over with as quickly as possible. Across the arena, Andrew adjusts his glasses and staff in hand invites them to begin. As the starting signal sounds, the white-haired friend rushes swiftly toward his opponent. Andrew immediately casts a spell and several blue magic circles materialize, creating spikes of ice. Skillfully spinning his dagger, Kai manages to evade every single one of the opponent's ice spikes. Andrew is completely stunned to see Shuichi's friend successfully defend against his attack. With a confident smirk, the white-haired young man taunts the mage, asking, "Is that all you've got?" He then hurls his dagger toward the ice spikes that now cover the arena floor. The martial artist points his weapon at his adversary, challenging him to make the next move. Andrew adjusts his glasses, his thoughtful expression suggesting he's analyzing the duel. He then smirks, thinking to himself that his opponent has no idea he's walked right into a well-laid trap. A serious expression comes over Kai as he notices a blue aura forming around his body. Suddenly, the ground beneath him freezes solid, trapping him in a prison of magical ice. The ice crystals creep up his legs, leaving him completely immobilized in the center of the arena. With a triumphant grin, Andrew declares that his opponent now has no way to escape. Surrounded by a blue aura, he prepares for the final blow, bidding farewell to the spoiled noble. Even trapped, the protagonist's friend refuses to give up, bracing for his opponent's attack. The mage slams his staff into the ground, unleashing a massive wave of ice across the arena. After the attack, a single drop of red liquid falls onto the frozen ground, signaling an injury. Andrew smiles with satisfaction, asking if the young martial artist finally understands his place. We next see Kai struck by the ice as his opponent says this is for provoking a mage. The young man hangs his head, covered in ice, looking utterly defeated. His opponent approaches and mocks him, telling him to speak up if he's surrendering. Lila smirks with disdain, remarking that as expected, trash will always be trash. With a derisive smile, Lila offers to spare his life if he admits defeat right now. A flash of anger in Tishi's eyes shows her fury at the blue-haired mage's taunt. Shuichi then asks how long they plan to keep spouting nonsense before they're satisfied. In response, Kai challenges the ice magic with a fairy aura, a lava orb forming in his hand. "You idiot!" Lila exclaims, her face a mask of panic and surprise at his reckless move. Andrew senses the imminent danger and yells for his teammate to flee the arena immediately. The lava orb then detonates, creating a massive, fiery explosion that engulfs the arena. The force of the blast hurls Andrew backward, kicking up a thick cloud of dust. In shock, the mage realizes it was lava jelly and questions his opponent's sanity. Seizing the opportunity, Kai charges at high speed toward the stunned mage. He lands a devastating punch, shattering his opponent's magical defense circle. Andrew spits a red liquid, gritting his teeth in pain from the staggering blow. The audience gasps in shock to see a martial artist gravely injure a mage. A student in the crowd screams that the young man's legs are completely charred. To escape the ice, he had sacrificed his own legs, a display of incredible determination. He then explains he waited for the opening that appeared when the mage's magic was broken. Andrew is enraged, unable to believe he was wounded by a mere martial artist in front of everyone. He screams that with injured legs, his opponent can no longer dodge his attacks. However, the young martial artist reveals he still has another lava orb in his hands. The orb erupts in a blinding flash of light, enveloping Kai in another huge explosion. Sporting a victorious smile on his bruised face, Kai shows he won't give up so easily. Andrew is shocked by the insanity of the young man, who charges forward even after the blast. However, the mage manages to freeze Kai's hand just before he can land the final blow. In the next moment, the white-haired young man's other hand is also frozen by the opponent's ice magic. The young man grumbles that he hates ice users because they always slip up at the last second. Wounded, Andrew yells desperately for the martial artist to stay away from him. Ignoring the warning, Kai shatters the ice with a powerful headbutt, striking the mage directly. From the force of the impact, Andrew spits more red liquid as his glasses shatter into pieces. He is then thrown violently against the arena wall, utterly defeated. Collapsed on the ground, the mage can't believe his ice shield was broken by sheer brute force. With a triumphant smile, Kai raises his dagger and is declared the winner of the first match. He remarks that he was feeling great, but Shuichi reveals he slipped a drug into his breakfast. The white-haired young man expresses his concern for Tishi's upcoming fight against the girl, but the protagonist reassures him, saying that if it's Tishi, she will undoubtedly be fine. In the crowd, someone comments that Andrew only lost because he went easy on Kai for being from a wealthy family. Tishi becomes irritated, knowing he won through his own skill, which they refuse to admit. As the match begins, the girl advances with incredible speed toward her opponent. Leela summons spikes from the ground, attempting to defend against the martial artist's swift attack. The protagonist watches as Leela remarks that martial artists are obsessed with honor. With a wicked grin, she declares that for mages, the only thing that matters is the final result. However, Tishi is far quicker, effortlessly dodging the spikes. The girl then whispers something in Leela's ear, leaving the mage completely shocked. With a powerful punch, she strikes the mage head on, instantly shattering her spike defense. Leela coughs up a red liquid, wondering how a level 1 girl could possibly be so fast. The mage's eyes glow with a blue light as she appears to prepare for a counter-attack. Teishi then unsheathes her sword, stating she will explain the reason for her speed. Grabbing Leela by the arm, she says there is a core teaching in the martial artist's code. Her eyes glowing within a fiery aura, she proclaims they must protect human life. Shocked, the mage uses her plant magic to try and break free from her opponent's grasp. The martial artist then strikes Leela's mana meridians with a series of lightning-fast blows. Witnessing the precision of the strikes, Kai and the protagonist are impressed by Teishi's skill. The hero smiles, thinking that as expected his classmate has remarkably sharp eyes. The young woman then states that she shouldn't have trampled on a martial artist's pride so carelessly. With one last strike, she defeats Leela, securing the second match for the martial arts department. After the fight, several poison needles fall from Leela's sleeve, revealing her hidden weapon. In another room, a woman questions Theodore for allowing something so dangerous in the students' duel. But the council president dismisses her concerns, saying she's overthinking it and no one was harmed. Professor Greg is furious, stating there was a reason Shigart chose Tishi for the match. He complains that their goal was to crush the other's spirit and claim the tower spots. Andrew interjects that they still have a chance and he will use that technique again. The protagonist prepares for the third and final match of the duel with a serious expression. His opponent, Andrew, enters the arena holding a pink magic dagger and takes his fighting stance. A magical barrier forms around the arena, and a third confrontation finally commences. Without wasting a second, the mage launches a swift attack with his blade toward the martial artist. Yet the hero observes the attack with a focused gaze, seemingly unfazed by the magic. Andrew then moves at high speed, creating multiple clones to disorient the protagonist. He boasts that some mages like himself also train in physical techniques. Taishi notes that he's defending from a distance and wonders how Shuichi will respond. The protagonist thinks to himself that he doesn't need to reveal his full strength, but decides to test his opponent. With that, he lunges forward and hits one of the clones with a potent punch to gauge its abilities. Andrew is shocked, not having expected the young man to locate him so easily among the clones. The hero continues his assault with astonishing speed, completely surprising the mage. Andrew wonders if his eyes deceived him, questioning if he imagined the hit. The mage then counter-attacks with his magic sword, attempting to strike the martial artist. He then realizes that for a fleeting moment, the young man exuded a completely terrifying presence. With a smirk, he says what a shame and prepares a spell with his magic staff. Shuichi sees the attack coming, his eyes narrowing in pure concentration for what's to come. The magic sword strikes him in the shoulder, and a red liquid begins to flow from the wound. Even injured, the hero faces his opponent with a calm expression, betraying no pain. Andrew prepares to use his bone-shattering art, declaring that his opponent won't withstand this blow. "I will crush every bone in your body," Andrew screams, channeling his special technique. With a look full of hatred, he seems certain his technique will work perfectly. But to his utter astonishment, the bone-shattering art has no effect on the martial artist at all. Kai is dumbfounded, wondering what his friend did to completely negate the mage's attack. The mage accuses the hero of bluffing, claiming he has no secret move. The protagonist then seizes Andrew's arm with a powerful grip, preparing for the final blow. Andrew struggles to break free, but the hero holds him fast, stating, "That's enough?" With a calm gaze, the martial artist announces that it is now his turn to attack. He stomps forcefully on the arena floor, preparing one of his most powerful moves. The stomp creates an immense shockwave, kicking up a thick cloud of dust and debris. The mage is shocked that a level 1 martial artist could create such a wave with a single leg. The hero states that now no one can see them and asks if his opponent is ready for the end. Andrew screams in terror as the protagonist attacks with a sword of purple magical energy. With a swift and precise blow, the hero strikes the mage, sending him crashing to the arena floor. The energy sword hits him squarely and a red liquid begins to stream from the wound. Lying on the ground with no strength left to fight, the mage finally admits defeat. The protagonist observes his defeated opponent with a serious expression, not uttering a word. In the audience, Professor Greg furiously shouts that with his skill, he could have won easily. Master Shigart observes that the other professor doesn't even realize how badly his student is hurt. With a concerned look, he thinks that this whole situation could still escalate into a major problem. Kai celebrates that the martial arts department has swept all matches in the duel. The other students from the class also cheer for their unexpected victory against the mages. Teishi senses a new danger and shouts for the protagonist to watch out for an incoming attack. Andrew lunges forward in a rage, his magic sword ready to strike Shuichi from behind. In the crowd, a black-haired girl is shocked, whispering that what just happened is impossible. She recognizes the move as the advanced meridian burning technique from the ancient texts. Her eyes turn red as she notes that no martial artist has been capable of using that for 100 years. She then wonders who the protagonist truly is, observing him from a distance with great curiosity. The other students celebrate the win, calling the mages cowards for using surprise attacks. One female student gets carried away, declaring that from now on, she'll challenge any mage who looks at her the wrong way. Teishi tries to calm everyone down, saying she just had a better than average performance. With a smile, she gives her friend a hearty slap on the back, making him cringe from the force. Professor Shigart appears and scolds his students for getting so easily carried away by victory. One of the female students becomes angry, vowing to get stronger and make them regret it. The hero reflects that the master is right, they need to have confidence, not arrogance. A blonde woman approaches the professor, commenting that he's starting to sound like a true master. The master replies he just doesn't want his students to end up like him, and asks what she wants. The woman hands him an envelope, speaking of the ancient, forbidden art of the Meridian Smasher. Shigart's hand begins to tremble, revealing the dark veins that indicate his poor health. In the infirmary, Andrew lies in a bed, apparently recovering from his injuries. A carriage pulls up to the academy, and a man with a very serious expression steps out. He clenches his fist tightly, a clear display of his anger and frustration with the situation. Professor Greg wonders how a simple freshman duel escalated into such a huge mess. A white-haired man laments that his son's magical meridians have been destroyed. Greg then demands a severe punishment and the immediate disbandment of the martial arts department. At that moment, Master Shigart angrily smashes a bottle on the floor upon hearing the accusations. He agrees that the culprit deserves a severe punishment, then glares at the other professor. The master proceeds to accuse the trio of mages of having gravely injured two of his own students. With a furious look, he asks the director to punish Greg and the others according to the rules. Professor Greg wonders if the other side was planning to eliminate them during the duel all along. He doesn't understand why the martial arts master is only bringing this up now. The man shouts at them not to change the subject and to focus on the forbidden technique used. However, Master Shigart points out that this technique is not something a novice martial artist could use. The other professor agrees, saying the incompetent son of the Ryan family wouldn't be capable. The master then snaps his fingers, retorting that an advanced martial artist could use the technique. Professor Greg realizes the only advanced martial artist present was the master himself. A smirk forms on his face as he asks if Master Shigart might be the real culprit. With a look of pure contempt, he points a finger directly at the other master, making a direct accusation. But the martial arts master calmly replies that if he could use it, he would have used it on him long ago. The director then asks how he explains his student's current condition if the technique wasn't used. Master Shigart ironically suggests that perhaps it's all just karma coming back around. He explains that he asked the protagonist, who denied using any forbidden techniques in the fight. The hero theorized that Andrew paid black market assassins to learn how to torture people. The young martial artist also suggested he was worried about this information getting out. Therefore, the master concludes, someone powerful from the underworld used the duel as an opportunity to act. The academy's director listens to the theory with a thoughtful expression, stroking his chin. Furious, Professor Greg shouts that they can't dismiss the issue with baseless rumors. Another professor agrees, stating it's all just speculation with no evidence. But Shigart argues his hypothesis is far more credible than a novice using an ancient technique. The master then warns that if they earn this person's resentment, things will become very serious. Night falls over the academy as the crescent moon illuminates the sky with its soft glow. The director makes his way to the academy library, holding a lantern to light his path. He searches the shelves for a specific book, finally locating it in a dusty corner. Holding the book, he notices the dust has been wiped clean, proof that someone recently handled it. The man opens the book and begins to carefully flip through its pages. He studies an illustration that shows the correct hand form for using the forbidden technique. With a satisfied smile, the director seems to have discovered something important about the case. He continues to read the ancient tome by lantern light in the middle of the dark library. The scene then shifts to a hot spring located in the region's magical Beast Mountain range. The protagonist is preparing a glowing potion for the final treatment of his injured friends. The two injured young men step into the water, and a blue energy immediately begins to heal their wounds. The hot spring's water glows intensely as the healing process continues within the cave. One of the young men grits his teeth in pain as he feels the healing energy course through his body. The blue aura envelops the young man's bandaged arms, regenerating his tissues and bones. The healing energy also flows through the other young man's legs, restoring his strength and vitality. The second young man also feels the pain of the process, groaning as his injuries are mended. The blue aura concentrates on his back, healing the wound and removing the mage's curse. The protagonist watches, telling them to endure the pain just a little longer to be fully healed. He then reveals that martial artists like mages can also use healing techniques. Several days later, in the city of Dak, Shuichi's parents arrive to visit their children. Their carriage stops, and they alight, eager to see their children after so much time has passed. The mother remarks that it's been a long time, and the father agrees they will see them soon. She observes the city, commenting that nothing has changed since her last visit. The father then calls her name, seeming to notice a hint of sadness in her distant gaze. The mother smiles, telling him not to worry and that she was merely lost in memories of the past. The carriage then continues on its way through the city streets, heading toward the youth's academy. With tears welling in her eyes, the mother appears both moved and surprised by something she sees in the distance. A man on horseback approaches them, holding the reins with a calm expression. This is Saint Miranda, Catherine's younger brother and Awa's father, who comes to greet them. 10 years ago, Beastman tribes launched a massive assault on the Empire's borders. The monstrous creatures attacked with ferocity, baring their sharp teeth and claws. People banded together to resist the Beastman armies in a bloody, hard-fought battle. During this war, the young mage Catherine Miranda fought bravely against the creatures. She used her powerful magic to vanquish the monsters and protect her comrades. It was there she met the young commander Holt Ryan, and the two fought side by side. With a confident smile, the knight fearlessly faced the monsters on the battlefield. The young mage watched him with admiration as they battled the enemy forces together. After facing death together, the two promised to spend the rest of their lives as one. However, her father, Duke Miranda, fiercely opposed the marriage of the two young lovers. The man muses on the irony of their children now meeting at the magic school. With a smile, he reflects that time passes so quickly, and things are always changing. He then compliments her children, mentioning that his father thinks Julia resembles a younger version of her. Shuichi's mother is surprised, asking if their father truly acknowledges Julia's existence. With a warm smile, he invites her to return home, saying their father has always wanted to see her. He sighs, seemingly hiding something from his sister, who watches him with suspicion. The man then reveals that their father wishes to see only her, not the rest of her family. With tears in her eyes, the woman realizes her father still refuses to accept her husband, Holt. The protagonist's father tells her to go, stating he needs to head to the front lines anyway. Shuichi's mother worries about his departure, but he reassures her with a gentle smile. Holt then says his farewell, promising to come for her as soon as the military campaign concludes. Her brother reveals that Holt swallowed his pride and asked for help to reconcile with their father. He then expresses a wish that one day, someone will come along to end the prejudice against martial artists. The protagonist sneezes, wondering if he's caught a cold despite his recent intense training. His sister Julia comments that it's rare for Kai to buy food for anyone else, looking curious. Kai tells them to leave him alone, adding that he'll treat his friends to lunch once they've recovered. The hero replies that he thinks it's all right, and that they don't need to worry about it. Nearby students gossip about the martial arts department's luck and the rumors from the duel. A blonde girl overhears their conversation, appearing interested in the circulating rumors. One of the young men becomes irritated by the gossip, and a dark aura of pure rage surrounds him. The protagonist apologizes and asks his friends to head to the cafeteria with Julia first. As Julia eats cheerfully, the hero notices she is wearing a new hair clip. She explains it was a gift from Owa and the Miranda family, which surprises the protagonist. He reflects that it's no surprise they would want to get close to a genius like Julia. The young martial artist then asks his sister to get along with Owa for their mother's sake. The girl agrees, adding she needs to write a letter to their mother about becoming a representative. At that moment, a purple-haired woman approaches and congratulates her on the achievement. The woman praises the girl, saying she will become a pillar of the school in the near future. The protagonist observes the woman, noticing her gaze is fixed on his sister's legs. A young man nearby gets annoyed by the woman's behavior and scolds her for staring at the girl. The black-haired woman who watched the protagonist during the duel silently observes the scene. A little earlier, a blonde teacher had stated that Julia surpasses the other student in every aspect. For that reason, she concluded the protagonist's sister was more suitable to be class representative. She then asked the black-haired girl to please understand her decision regarding the position. But the young woman declared she would prove with her skills that the teacher was only showing favoritism to Julia. Shuichi's sister sees the girl leaving the room, confused and unsure of what just transpired. She comments that the other student seemed very upset and really stormed out of there. Worried, she decides to buy lunch and take it to Owa, since she hasn't seemed to be eating. The purple-haired woman then asks if Julia is close with the other girl in their class. The protagonist's sister confirms this and praises Owa's mental magic, calling it incredible. The woman agrees that mental magic is rare, but seems to be withholding some information. She touches the table, and a blue magic circle forms around the group of students. The magical barrier prevents any sound from leaking out, ensuring no one can overhear them. The hero wonders if it's a silencing magic circle designed to contain sound. With a finger to her lips, the woman remarks that when people are too intelligent, they can be difficult to handle. She then offers the rest of her food to the girl, who thanks the woman for the kind gesture. The woman introduces herself as Mina, and the protagonist wonders what they could be talking about. Shuichi takes a piece of her food, then asks what she truly wants from them. The woman notes that the brother is on guard but seems unconcerned by his interference. Getting straight to the point, she commends the young martial artist's perceptiveness at the academy. Mina asks if they know of the dangerous place behind the school, mentioning an anomaly there. Mina reveals that the number of lower-level beasts in the region has decreased drastically. The hero recalls his wolf scaring away the leopard cubs and understands the situation. The woman continues, stating that 3 days ago, an investigation team discovered a lair. Hearing this, Julia's spoon clatters to the floor as she turns pale with worry and fear. She wonders if the discovered lair could be the one belonging to her wolf friend, Eru, in the forest. The protagonist coughs to cover his nervousness and quickly tries to change the subject. Shuichi's sister brings a hand to her mouth, shocked and worried about what might have happened. The young martial artist then asks if they are being asked to undertake a field mission there. Mina confirms this, adding that the reward for the mission will be 100 points for each of them. Both siblings are shocked by the high reward and appear interested in the mission. The hero thinks that with his and his sister's strength, they can handle the mission with ease. At the Miranda family estate, a butler serves glasses of wine to the assembled guests. Duke Miranda, the head of the family, dines calmly at his luxurious table. The family is gathered for dinner, but the atmosphere is tense and eerily silent. Shuichi's mother's brother complains that their father made his sister stay in the guest quarters. He glances at his sister with a worried expression, seemingly lost in serious thought. The young man notices his sister hasn't touched her food and that the mood feels like a funeral. Duke Miranda then calls his daughter's name, Catherine, who looks at him with a sorrowful expression. He announces his willingness to acknowledge Julia as his granddaughter, given her archmage qualities. Shuichi's mother expresses her gratitude, adding that he is also an excellent martial artist who earned a perfect score. A wave of sadness washes over Shuichi's mother as she thinks that what the Miranda family seeks is talent. Duke Miranda then states that they only accept those with the talent to become archmages. The woman thinks that her father's prejudice against martial artists is not likely to change. A man then arrives, delivering an envelope with new information from the investigation team. Surprised, Shuichi's mother asks the reason for the sudden investigation on the mountain. The Duke reads the report, which states a new area has been discovered with an unknown danger level. Her brother expresses concern about a potential danger to the children at the Allen Magic School. But the Duke reassures him there's no danger, as the school has teachers and his own subordinates on site. He then asks his daughter to wait until the matter is resolved before going to see the children. The woman agrees with her father, thinking that her children will just have to wait a little longer. Mina reveals that to accept the mission, they need 5 people, including 1 member of the council. One of the students is shocked, exclaiming that there was no member limit when he last checked. Mina explains the president changed the rules due to the anomaly discovered in the cave. She realizes he deliberately changed the conditions, betting she couldn't assemble the required group. The hero then concludes that this is why she has been getting close to Julia since the entrance exam. Mina apologizes, saying it seems they will have to abandon the mission for now. But the protagonist and his sister offer to help recruit the necessary people for the mission. With tears in her eyes, Mina thanks them for their help, privately feeling guilty for using them as pawns. A determined look on her face suggests she is formulating a plan to get what she wants. Suddenly, a knight in shining armor appears, sword in hand, and calls out to her. The knight announces that since his best friend is going on a field mission, he will lend his aid. With a confident smile, Kai says he will use the advanced equipment his parents bought for him. A white-haired girl joins them, introducing herself as a specialist in healing magic. Mina then thinks to herself that she takes back what she said. These freshmen will be nothing but a burden. Julia asks her brother why he invited Maya instead of Oa for the mission in the forest. Mina puts a hand to her face, thinking they are only here to fill the mission's quota. She then uses her acceleration magic to swiftly guide the group to the beast's lair. Several hours later, they are speeding through the forest thanks to Mina's magic. The group arrives at the cave entrance, and Mina announces they have finally reached their destination. Kai recognizes the flag bearing the Miranda family crest, confirming the Empire's investigation. He also notes signs of a recent battle, while Mina examines some leaves on the forest floor. The hero and his sister are relieved to see that their wolf's den has not been discovered. Suddenly, the protagonist senses imminent danger, and his eyes widen in alarm. A winged creature dives from above, and the young man shouts for his friends to prepare for a fight. Mina casts a wind spell, crying out, "Storm, become a blade." The attack strikes the creature head-on, causing it to spit a red liquid as it crashes to the forest floor. The hero easily dodges as several creatures swarm him with their sharp claws. He then notices another creature about to ambush Mina from behind, unseen by her. With a focused expression, the woman appears unfazed by the approaching danger. Kai quickly deploys his magic shield, protecting Mina from the winged creature's attack. With a confident grin, Kai tells them to leave the close quarters combat to them. He uses his shield to fend off the sharp claws of another one of the winged creatures. The hero takes down a monster with a powerful punch, earning an impressed call from his friend. Kai playfully challenges him to keep up with his speed during the battle. Mia creates a barrier of water spirit, telling the group to leave the support to her. The creatures continue their assault from above, attacking with sharp and dangerous claws and beaks. Mina thinks to herself that it's been a while since she felt everyone coordinating so perfectly together. She explains that the beast dislikes wind and lightning magic, then instructs Julia to attack. A glint in Mina's eyes suggests she is plotting something for the battle's outcome. Shuichi's sister then unleashes a powerful spell from her bright pink magic staff. Her eyes glowing with power, she uses her barrier magic to ensnare the creatures. A dome of purple energy materializes, trapping the monsters and leaving them vulnerable. The barrier electrocutes the creatures with powerful lightning, leaving them completely paralyzed. The girl's staff continues to crackle with purple energy, a testament to her immense magical power. The protagonist comments that his sister's lightning magic possesses incredible power. Julia calls out to Mina, but the woman seems distracted and doesn't respond. The girl then asks if she said something, but Mina pretends she didn't hear anything. She says it was nothing, and the two continue walking through the forest after the battle. Mina thinks to herself that she underestimated the capabilities of these pawns, and smiles at the thought. The white-haired girl uses her healing magic to treat one of Mina's minor injuries. Kai praises the girl's instant healing, saying she's like a goddess with her magic. Shyly, the girl dismisses it as an exaggeration, but then imagines the protagonist calling her a goddess. At the thought, a pink explosion goes off in her head, leaving her completely embarrassed. The hero watches her, confused as she wonders why she is thinking such things. The group then proceeds into the cave, with Mina remarking on how enormous it is inside. Her magic staff illuminates the path, revealing the vastness of the dark cavern. Julia is impressed, noting that there is an even larger chamber deeper inside. The two girls lead the way, Mina's light guiding the group through the oppressive darkness. Kai is also surprised, pointing out another passage wide enough for an entire army. The protagonist concludes that the cave has been artificially excavated and may hide underground monsters. He warns the group to stay alert, as the deeper they venture, the more dangerous it will become. Without warning, several goblins leap from the shadows, attacking the group with sharp axes. Julia immediately launches a sphere of purple energy, electrocuting the creatures with powerful lightning. The goblins shriek in pain as they are struck by the girl's magic and collapse to the ground. Mina explains they are blind and rely on hearing, but the attack has secured their safety for now. However, she warns that if they fight every monster they encounter, their journey will be endless. With a confident smile, Kai declares that he has an excellent plan to deal with them. A short while later, the creatures' bodies lie strewn across the dark cave floor. Kai is seen running ahead, drawing the attention of every goblin in the cavern. Julia readies her cat-eared staff, preparing to unleash a powerful spell. Mina also prepares her staff, creating a circle of blue energy on the ground. Kai is horrified to realize the two girls plan to attack, while he's in the middle of the monster horde. The two then launch their combined spells toward the swarm of creatures in the cave. Their magic strikes the goblins head-on, creating a powerful explosion of light and purple energy. The girls' combined explosion generates an immense shockwave that devastates everything in its path. The protagonist and Maya observe the scene, with him commenting on the plan's efficiency. Kai then boasts about his brilliant strategy of luring the enemies into a single location. He claims that only someone with his top-of-the-line equipment could pull off such a feat. Thanks to Kai's idea, the group successfully eliminates the monsters in a quick and efficient manner. The white-haired girl then uses her magic to heal Kai's injuries sustained during the battle. Pressing forward, they discover a vast treasure trove of gold coins, swords, and vases. The protagonist sighs, noticing the girl's fatigue, and suggests they need a break. However, Kai challenges more monsters, and the hero wonders if he's pretending not to hear. He stumps his foot on the cave floor, attracting the attention of more creatures from the darkness. With a grin, he announces that he's brought the monsters and the fight is now up to them. Turning around, he realizes the rest of the group has vanished, leaving him alone with the creatures. The protagonist says he dislikes the idea of sacrificing a teammate, but they have no other choice. Maya then promises that if he survives, she will certainly return to save him from the monster horde. Suddenly, the cave trembles and the white-haired girl looks up, startled by the noise. She asks if the sound came from Kai, but the hero clarifies that it came from the center of the monster nest. Mina asks if they should investigate the area, and the group seems to agree. The hero comments that the smell of blood is overwhelmingly strong, and a red aura emanates from the location. The woman then offers Julia a healing potion to drink before they proceed. She states they probably won't need to intervene, but it's better to check as a precaution. Upon reaching the site, they discover the bodies of several knights scattered across the cave floor. The girls are horrified, and Mina wonders if the entire investigation team has been wiped out. The protagonist senses something is terribly wrong as a tremor begins to shake the entire cavern. The cave walls start to crumble, and rocks rain down violently from the ceiling. Suddenly, the body of one of the knights is hurled forcefully in the group's direction. Mina watches the scene in horror, realizing they are in grave danger. A giant Minotaur emerges from the shadows, wielding an enormous axe, its eyes glowing menacingly. The creature bares its sharp teeth and lets out a ferocious roar at the group of students. Mina wonders why a calamity-class monster would be found in a place like this. The young woman panics, unable to comprehend what is happening on this academy mission. The protagonist senses a familiar presence, realizing he has encountered it somewhere before. He shouts for everyone to be careful and shoves them out of the way of the monster's attack. The Minotaur swings its giant axe, and the hero braces himself to block the blow. His fist enveloped in a golden aura, he prepares for the impact of the massive axe. The axe smashes into an ice shield, which shatters into pieces from the force of the attack. Julia runs over, asking if they are alright, and the hero asks Mina if she created the shield. The protagonist says she didn't, and his eyes fill with surprise and concern at what he sees. He explains that the person in the Minotaur's grasp was the one who created the ice shield for them. The monster then crushes the man in its hand, questioning him for interfering in its fight. The hero remembers that the knight had helped them, despite being gravely injured himself. The man screams for them to contact the Imperial Army and call for reinforcements. He yells that the ancient seal has been broken as the creature glares down at him with its glowing eyes. The Minotaur then strikes the knight with a powerful punch, shattering his armor. With a wicked grin, the monster declares it will devour them all, one by one. The girls scream at Mina, demanding to know why she is just standing frozen in the middle of the fight. Mina drops her healing potion, appearing to be in shock from the monster's sudden appearance. Julia realizes something is wrong and looks at Mina with an expression of pure confusion. The Minotaur then turns, fixing its furious gaze upon the white-haired girl. She launches an ice spell at the monster, retorting that it's the one talking nonsense. A massive explosion of ice engulfs the Minotaur, creating a thick cloud of steam. The white-haired girl urges them to go quickly and report what is happening here. Mina and Julia agree, preparing to flee the cave and seek help for the battle. The protagonist apologizes for being unable to save him and promises to return for vengeance. The man screams at them to escape the cave as fast as they can to save themselves. With a sad smile, he freezes himself along with the Minotaur to buy them time to escape. He thinks to himself that he has done all he can, sacrificing himself to save the students. The knight encases both the Minotaur and himself in ice in a final act of sacrifice. But the monster shatters the ice with ease, roaring furiously at the man's treacherous attack. The Minotaur opens its giant maw, preparing to devour the sacrificed knight. Suddenly, purple lightning strikes the creature, stopping it from consuming the man. The monster screams in agony from the lightning attack, and the knight falls from its mouth to the ground. Julia shouts that he is not an insect, but a great warrior who fought bravely. Manga casts a water spell to cushion the knight's fall, saving him from certain doom. Mina then conjures a powerful wind bomb and hurls it at the giant monster. She yells at the protagonist, demanding to know why he is running toward the fight. With a determined look, the hero declares he will hold the creature off and tells Mina to run. The woman scolds him, insisting he can't possibly stop a calamity-class monster alone. But the protagonist meets her gaze, saying he knows it won't be easy, but he has to try. The Minotaur then attacks, hurling a giant boulder toward the group of students. With a hateful glare, the creature bellows that they will all perish in this dark cave. The hero tells her to leave with the others and to leave the monster to him. Mina then declares that as vice president, it is her responsibility to protect everyone here. The protagonist thinks to himself that she has more courage than he expected, surprised by her resolve. The woman reveals she used magic to contact Kai and request rescue at the cave's entrance. The Minotaur lets out a ferocious roar, preparing to attack the group with its full strength. The group braces for a combined attack but realizes they cannot win against such a monster. The protagonist tells Mina to believe in everyone as he prepares for battle with the Minotaur. He then unleashes a beam of golden energy from his fist toward the giant monster. With a determined shout, he declares that they will not lose to a monster like this. The Minotaur's axe is stained with red liquid, a testament to its ferocity in battle. The creature then attacks with its spinning axe, creating a powerful shockwave. The monster's eye glows with an intense blue light as it readies its attack. The hero stands before the creature, his fist glowing with a golden aura. He then delivers a powerful punch to the monster, concentrating all his strength into the blow. The Minotaur glares at him with its glowing eyes, seemingly unfazed by the young man's attack. Mina tells the protagonist to maintain the suppression while she prepares her next attack. The monster calls him a useless insect and strikes with a powerful punch, using all its might. The hero braces for the impact as the Minotaur glares at him with a look of pure hatred. The young martial artist smirks, remarking that it seems his sister is finally ready to attack. Julia shouts for the monster not to bully her brother and unleashes her most powerful spell. A shower of purple lightning rains down on the Minotaur, electrocuting it with great intensity. The protagonist seizes the opportunity, attacking the monster with a series of rapid blows. He strikes the creature's pressure points with precision, leaving it momentarily paralyzed. The Minotaur screams in pain from the group's combined attacks, now vulnerable in the battle. The hero then shouts for his sister to attack now that he has managed to halt the monster's movements. Julia unleashes a powerful thunder arrow at the paralyzed Minotaur. Mina then casts a wing-cutter spell, a sphere of blue energy forming in her hands. The two girls shout in unison as they launch their combined attacks at the Minotaur. The lightning and wind spells merge, create an even more powerful and devastating attack. The attack strikes the monster head-on, but it manages to block with its giant axe. The creature curses its luck and spits a red liquid, appearing heavily wounded. With a hateful glare, it swears to finish them all as soon as its legs have healed. But Mia declares she won't let that happen and prepares for another magic attack. She creates a giant sphere of water and hurls it at the injured Minotaur. A cascade of water crashes down on the creature, drenching it completely. The white-haired girl pants, having used a great deal of energy for the spell. The Minotaur rises, announcing that its legs have already healed thanks to the magic water. It snarls that a little water won't hurt it, gritting its teeth in pure rage. The creature then charges, screaming that it will devour them all alive in this dark cave. Julia then asks what happens when someone soaked in water is electrocuted. With a cry of rage, she declares it will pay with its life for what it did to the soldiers. A massive explosion of purple lightning and water engulfs the Minotaur. The monster shrieks in agony as it is electrocuted by the combination of the two girls' magic. The protagonist observes, understanding that the water was used to amplify the lightning's power. The Minotaur continues to be electrocuted as smoke begins to pour from its body. Finally, the creature collapses, defeated by the combined attack of the student group. The protagonist praises the girls' strategy, calling them truly top-tier students. His hand glowing gold, he prepares to deliver the final blow to the defeated monster. He climbs on the Minotaur's body, announcing he will stab it to ensure their victory. Mina is confused, not understanding what he means after the long battle. Suddenly, a dark and ominous red aura erupts from the Manhua's body with great intensity. The hero is shocked, wondering what is happening to the defeated creature. He feels a strange pressure as the red aura hits him with the force of an explosion. A dragon-like form materializes, attacking the protagonist with powerful red energy. He is thrown backward by the attack's impact, landing hard on the cave floor. A shadowy creature with glowing red eyes emerges from the body of the defeated Minotaur. Kai, waiting outside the cave, feels the tremor and becomes frightened by the situation. He wonders if it's an earthquake, realizing something incredibly dangerous must be happening. The young man decides to call for reinforcements immediately, telling everyone to hang in there.